Liarte Elheim stands frozen in the pouring rain and hears a cold command to raise his tired head. The clan leader reproaches the poor girl for lacking awakened power. Unlike her talented brother Lian, cruel relatives found a terrifying way to enhance the boy's abilities through the death of an innocent heroine. The desperate beauty sheds tears upon hearing promises that her family will forever remember this forced sacrifice. Liarte bears the heavy burden of being the only unawakened member of an illustrious family. The rejected daughter lived as a disgrace to the family and did not receive a drop of love despite all her desperate efforts. The ruthless leader gives the command to begin the ritual, and a magic circle erupts around the victim. The young lady realizes the futility of her past hopes as she finds herself enveloped in a blinding stream of light. The frightened patriarch freezes in horror, seeing something completely impossible right before his eyes. The stunned brother watches in panic as the immense power of Elheim awakens within the doomed girl. The spirit gem shatters into pieces, blinding witnesses with furious beams of light. The frightened servants shout in panic to their master about the sudden destruction of the sacred relic. An unfamiliar voice from a vision begs a drowning girl to open her eyes and return to life. Liarte wakes up abruptly in his own bed, gasping for air. The lost lady recognizes with horror the room that was supposed to burn to the ground on the day of the execution. The resurrected heroine is completely shocked to realize the miraculous restoration of her mutilated body. The door opens, and the handsome Lian appears on the threshold with a routine question about how I am feeling. The shocked little girl looks at her living brother and completely does not understand the reality of what is happening. The hypocritical youth comes closer and powerfully squeezes the fragile, trembling palm. A cruel relative with an icy gaze accuses the poor girl of disrupting important plans. Lian, his face twisted with anger, hisses at how everything infuriates him. Liarte clearly remembers these same words and the expression on her brother's face from the past, when the girl shielded the young man from the killer 3 years ago. The heroine realizes that the current situation is an exact repetition of the day when the poison girl disrupted all of Lian's plans. A thought about returning to the past flashes through Liarte's head. With inhuman strength, the girl pulls her hand out of the grip of the astonished Lian Elheim. Liarte promises his brother in an icy tone that he will never again commit such a useless act as saving his life. A servant bursts into the room and demands that the young man leave immediately. He reports that the father is calling all the awakened ones because the spirit stone has suddenly started to shine. Lian says that the discussion will continue along the way and leaves with the servant. The remaining beauty feels within herself a powerful energy that was absorbed at the moment of execution. Liard is amazed to realize that the awakened power of water is seething inside. The girl concentrates her energy with trembling hands while sitting right on the bed. A transparent sphere obediently forms in the palms, confirming magical success. The reborn lady no longer wonders whether this is a blessing or a terrible curse. The determined beauty vows to break with the hated Duke Elheim forever. A young gentleman in a red bandage complains to a servant about his complete blindness. The assistant is skeptical about the chances of healing at the hands of a hostile clan. The blonde admits the need to find an awakened water mage for salvation. The boy plans to return to the emperor the strange gift he received immediately after the curse. A man shrouded in darkness promises to fulfill any wish of his future savior. The servants of the Beers clan mercilessly exterminate their enemies, leaving no one alive. Mikhail calmly straightens his clothes and reminds him of his family's bloody motto. An alarmed Elheim tries to understand the reason for the sudden appearance of a dangerous man. The blind, handsome man smiles sweetly and reports an important matter to the Duke. The cunning guest offers to leave the estate immediately if the owner so wishes. The young gentleman waves the official permission to visit right under his nose. The imperial document completely prohibits the owner of this paper from being thrown out. A cheeky guy provokes his opponent by mocking Bierce's cowardice before authority. The irritated patriarch gives in and demands to get straight to the point of the conversation. A man who suffered from the curse reveals the truth about the incurable curse that took away his sight. A cunning guest asks to allocate an awakened water mage to remove a grave curse. The Duke hints at the risk to the healer and delicately puts forward a counter-condition. The clan leader sharply limits the candidate's waiting period to just 1 short month. The blonde man calmly walks down the corridor and confirms to his companion the Duke's predictable refusal. Mikhail initially did not believe in the existence of a magician capable of breaking dark spells. An attentive assistant notices a suspicious absence of servants and guards in the huge castle. Walter directly asks the master about the advisability of staying in the enemy's lair. The young man wishes to personally verify the rumors about the awakened gathered in the estate. The intrigued boy grins as he considers Elheim's words about the presence of many mages. Leader Beers finds a reason to stay and sends a subordinate to spy on the family. Faithful servant Walter is already rushing to carry out his master's spy mission. A blond man, tormented by darkness, wonders about the possibility of curing a hopeless illness. Loss of sight threatens the magician with complete loss of control over destructive power. Liarte suddenly encounters an uninvited guest in the middle of the night's silence. The heroine hides her true intentions and introduces herself as a water mage sent by the Duke. Instead of rot, the blind man smells a refreshing aroma emanating from the guest. Mikhail Beers directly asks why the girl came to the chambers of a strange man. A desperate beauty offers a deal to lift a supposedly unbreakable curse. The young lady demands a price for the return of the sight stolen by magic. Captivated by hope, the aristocrat is ready to lay absolutely everything at the feet of his savior. Liarte demands to examine the curse first, and the Duke obediently agrees to the savior's conditions. Mikhail allows the bandage to be removed, and the girl notices an incredibly tight knot on the back of the boy's head. The cunning blonde admits to himself a strange desire to feel touch instead of independent actions. Blindness heightens the senses and makes the gentle touch of the heroine's fingers searingly bright for the guy. The blind aristocrat greedily inhales the pure scent of water emanating from the mysterious guest. The fabric falls down, revealing to Liarte's gaze the handsome face of a young man. Elheim freezes in horror, instantly recognizing traces of terrible black magic in the patient's eyes. The evil eye is bound by 7 seals, which over time only gain an unbreakable power. A surprised man asks a dangerous question about the source of forbidden knowledge within a righteous family. The sad lady avoids answering, recalling her former naive hopes of earning at least a drop of love. Liardi recalls sleepless nights reading forbidden books in the illusory hope of helping his family. A determined girl warns of the risk of total blindness and undertakes to weaken the first magical seal. Cool water obediently flows from the healer's fingers and softly envelops the man's head. The former loser, with bated breath, realizes she has absolute control over the awakened elements. The shocked patient feels the penetration of colossal power and is amazed at the level of strength of the unknown magician. The caring lady decides to break the curse's shackles gradually so as not to harm the aristocrat's body. The mysterious stranger hides her face under a hood and sets the next meeting for tomorrow. The enchanted Mikhail stops the departing beauty with a quiet promise to wait for the return of his savior. The blond man with open eyes smiles tenderly and says goodbye to the girl without even knowing her name. The embarrassed heroine timidly agrees and quickly disappears through the balcony door. Mikhail Beers looks after the departed guest and suddenly feels a strange, unquenchable thirst inside himself. In a past life, the arrogant Elheim family lost half of its lands in the terrible flames of war. A brutal confrontation with the powerful Mikhail turned into a real bloody catastrophe for the family. Driven into a corner, the Duke cowardly admitted to his daughter that he had brought trouble upon himself with his arrogant refusal. The mad father decided to sacrifice Liarte in order to strengthen his brother and save him from the wrath of the Burses. The true owner of the Spirit Stone was always this rejected girl, and not the vaunted heir. Brother Lian stands at the door and doesn't even suspect that his sister has firmly decided to hide her true strength. Imperial law grants adult nobles complete freedom to choose their own home. A hypocritical relative enters the room with false concern for the health of the supposedly poisoned poor thing. The cold beauty abruptly ends the conversation and directly asks about the reasons for such sudden interest. Lian tells the heroine that her condition is of great importance to the guy. The girl crosses her arms, believing that without her, the young man cannot use his abilities to the fullest extent. The dark-haired guy allows the heroine to move freely, thinking that the seclusion has upset the girl. Lian's thoughts take the young man back to the past, where the heroine changed dramatically after protecting the young man from a killer. The girl's inner voice laments that all this time she had to watch her facial expressions and please the guy. The appearance of Einlius interrupts Lian's thoughts, and the light from the Spirit Stone grows brighter. Lian looks at the glowing crystal with concern and asks when this started. Einlius replies that everything has been happening since yesterday, and Lian reaches out to the glowing stone. The young man, confused, says that he feels absolutely nothing when touching the artifact. The heroine, in a white hooded cloak, doubts whether the mysterious artifact is really intended for the girl. The dark-haired beauty removes her hood and greets Mikhail Beers. The blind prince considers addressing him by his full name too formal, and the girl suggests calling the young man Prince Burse. Mikhail gently refuses and asks the girl to call the young man simply by his first name. The girl calmly agrees, and the prince notes to himself that the heroine didn't even blink an eye at the flirting. A blindfolded young man wonders whether the girl is cold or just very smart. The heroine announces her intention to remove another seal and touches Michael's face. The girl asks the prince to trust her and promises to certainly restore the young man's sight. Mikhail's thoughts are occupied with how soft and gentle the girl's hand is, capable of fitting into the guy's palm. Incredible magic in the form of a shining bird bursts out until the prince cannot believe what is happening. Mikhail finally says with a smile that he completely trusts the heroine. The heroine unleashes a powerful stream of water magic in front of Mikhail. The girl completes the ritual and asks the prince with concern about his well-being. Mikhail, smiling, assures that he feels no pain, only incredible strength. The heroine is relieved to learn that everything is okay with the young man. The prince smirks at the thought of the formidable Burse being treated like a lamb. The young man desperately wants to see the girl's face to understand her true emotions. Mikhail promises to repay the kindness and hopes to learn the name of his savior. The girl is surprised, believing that the prince has already discovered the heroine's identity. The blind youth admits that he didn't even try to uncover her secret. Mikhail asks the beauty to tell him about herself one day, without wanting to put pressure on her. The heroine decides to go to the library to find books about the power of water. The girl ponders how her rebirth could have influenced Mikhail's character. The young lady comes to the conclusion that her chances of getting help have increased. In the library, the girl remembers that she used to come here often. The past shows a little heroine hiding from unloved relatives. The girl sadly wonders why she stopped coming here. The heroine is looking for books to awaken her abilities and to heal the prince. An unfamiliar young man with blue hair and a sly smile calls Liarte. The guy says the heroine's full name, Vimin Elheim, taking her by surprise. The flashback shows twins who have 3 older brothers. The heroine's memory shows 3 older brothers, Einlius, Dantharion, and Vimin. Liarte remembers how she often played with her peer Vimin as a child. The guy was a shy book lover, but one day their warm relationship changed. In the library of the past, young Huimin excitedly calls his sister to look at the find. The brother shows the girl an amazing book full of ancient, forgotten knowledge. The heroine secretly read forbidden books with Huimin, wanting to become useful to the family. The angry father finds his children and menacingly asks who brought these books into the house. A frightened Huimin babbles that it wasn't him when his father demands an answer. The boy points at his twin sister in fear, betraying her. Vimin screams in horror that all the forbidden books belong to Liarte. The Duke knew perfectly well about his daughter's innocence, but still decided to punish the girl. The father uses his water power, causing unbearable trauma to little Liarte. After that terrible incident, the girl stopped maintaining a close relationship with Huimin. The boy was still awkwardly trying to talk to his sister, just like he had been doing in the library. Vimin excitedly asks Liarte how the girl is doing. The heroine, with a cold expression on her face, asks why her brother is looking at her like that. Previously, Liarte was afraid of Vimin because of her injury, but now she doesn't feel anything. The young man says that he heard about his sister's poisoning and was very worried about her. The boy hesitates, trying to apologize for his childish mistake and express his concern. Liarte mercilessly cuts off his brother, accusing him of selfishness and a desire to get rid of guilt. Liarte accuses his brother of shifting all the blame onto the girl in order to maintain his ideal image. The girl declares that it is too late to apologize because the heroine does not intend to accept them. Vimin desperately grabs his sister's hand, but Liarte suddenly pulls away. The heroine contemptuously advises her brother to continue living like an ideal child, calling the guy a hypocrite. Mikhail reflects on the results of the investigation and doubts that the spirit stone in Elheim simply got out of control. Mikhail's assistant confirms the information, but the prince demands evidence that was obtained at the risk of his life. The subordinate understands that his words have no effect on the young master, and nothing can be done. The prince praises his assistant for his work and decides to write to his father, who is horrified to think that the curse has driven the young man mad. The assistant notices the prince's good mood and Michael replies that the same girl should arrive soon. The subordinate guesses that the reason for the good mood lies in the awakened one who came to remove the curse. The assistant decides to leave, citing the late hour and the need to send a report to the master. Left alone, Mikhail gets up from the sofa, saying that he now understands everything. The prince realizes the reason for the recent lull when assassins emerge from the shadows. Mikhail decides that this is the work of the people who cursed him and takes out his own dagger. The young man grins and declares that one dagger will be enough for such opponents. The prince muses that using his powers or the gun would create too much noise in the mansion. The young man wonders about the attacker's goal and prepares for a deadly attack. The blind prince easily parries the blow, proving that Elheim's defense is not so weak. Dodging another attack, Mikhail suggests that this is a plan to separate the Elheim and Beers families. Liarte's unexpected appearance takes the prince by surprise, and the young man asks the girl to wait outside while he finishes cleaning. The mercenaries suddenly freeze in place, enveloped in a mysterious glow. A powerful stream of water magic emanates from Liarte, creating a barrier around the girl and Mikhail. The heroine asks about the prince's well-being, and the embarrassed young man reminds her of the request to wait. The girl takes Mikhail by the hand, claiming that the young man was in danger. Liarte notices a cut on the prince's cheek and promises to take care of the wound later. Mikhail is amazed that the girl thinks only about his well-being, ignoring the smell of blood. The heroine's actions exceed all the prince's expectations, confusing the young man's heart. Thanks to the girl's intervention, the situation becomes much easier, because the enemies are immobilized. Liarte asks the prince to stand behind the heroine, intending to deal with the rest. Mikhail tries to stop the girl, but she unleashes power, turning the killers into dust. The shocked prince asks what happened, and Liarte denies using his power. The girl suggests that this may be ancient magic, and not an ordinary curse. The heroine admits that she does not know the source of the magic, but no longer feels any threat. The prince thanks her for her help, and orders the guards to find out everything, but the girl advises her to be careful. Liart announces his readiness to continue lifting the curse, which arouses Michael's interest. The girl begins the ritual, and powerful water magic envelops her and the prince. Mikhail feels the second seal being released and desperately wishes for time to stop. Crown Prince Lucas Francium decides that it is best to get rid of these two. A subordinate asks what to do with the puppets, and the Crown Prince orders them to be left behind. Lucas grins maliciously, because now Duke Beers and Elheim suspect each other. The Crown Prince's aide reports that Mikhail's purpose in Elheim remains a mystery. Lucas wonders suspiciously if Duke Elheim intends to form an alliance with House Beers. The aide assures the Crown Prince that the curse is created by ancient magic that Duke Elheim cannot overcome. The Crown Prince's inner voice confirms that it took a lot of effort to create this curse. The only threat to this plan could be Liane Elheim. The Crown Prince decides to send a letter with the intention of visiting Elheim, using Princess Ninian as a pretext. At the Elheim estate, they discuss the state of the Spirit Stone, which has begun to pulsate like a heart. Elias smiles and declares that awakening is near, and it's all thanks to Liane. Father reminds Liana of her imminent coming of age and the need to start looking for a wife. Einlius interrupts the conversation, showing a letter from the Crown Prince with news of an imminent visit. Apparently, the Crown Prince wishes to arrange an engagement between Liane and Princess Ninian. Liane coolly reflects that Ninian is not a bad opponent. A flashback reveals that Princess Ninian had been in love with Liane since childhood, making her an easy opponent. In Liane's mind, it is much easier to deal with Liardi than with Princess Ninian. However, now the girl looks unfamiliar and more distant than anyone else. Einlius asks his brother if the young man is against the engagement, and his father is already ready to set the date. The Duke decides to organize an event to welcome Mikhail Beers and invite the royal family. Liane, smiling, suggests a grand nighttime banquet and daytime hunting competitions. A few days later, with only 2 seals remaining, Liarte prepares for a new ritual. The heroine tensely notes that this seal is much more complex than the previous ones, and that removing it will take time. Mikhail gently asks the girl not to rush during the ritual. The prince informs his assistant that the curse is lifting, and his vision has partially returned. The assistant is concerned about the prince's safety at the upcoming hunting competition. Organizing a hunt for a blind guest seems like a clear insult on the part of the Elheims. For Mikhail, the Duke's insolence turns the situation into something quite interesting. The prince decides to take the hunt as a distraction before the future destruction of Elheim. The prince's vision clears, and the blurred silhouette of Liarte calls the young man by name. Liarte asks with anxiety and hope if Mikhail finally sees the girl. The heroine doubts the success of the ritual, and the blushing prince looks shocked. The embarrassed young man assures the girl that he feels much better. Mikhail admits that he is glad to see Liarte first after the long-awaited healing. The prince kisses the hand of his savior, declaring the eternal debt of the Burs family. Mikhail believes that the curse will be completely lifted and promises to free the girl. The young man is ready to fulfill his previously made promise and fulfill any wish of the heroine. The girl's main desire is to avoid the terrible fate that awaits her. The heroine understands that she can't cope alone, but with Michael's help, there is a chance. Finally, the girl says the name, Liarte Elheim, the shame of a great family. The past shows the heroine's lonely childhood, despised for being born a half-breed. Liarte's only wish is to leave the hated house of Elheim forever. Mikhail looks tenderly at the girl and vows to help her escape from Elheim. Mikhail shares his family history with Liarte, mentioning his father and grandfather. Feeling that he has become talkative, the prince asks the girl to also tell something about herself. The heroine gives her name, but Mikhail clarifies that he is interested in her preferences. The girl is at a loss to guess her hobbies, and the young man hesitantly offers her birds. A sad thought dawns on the heroine that she knows absolutely nothing about herself. The young man creates a magical bird, the symbol of the Burs family, and asks the girl if she likes it. With a magic bird on her shoulder, Liarte admits with a smile that she really likes them. The heroine's face becomes serious at the thought that the escape could result in the Burses facing the wrath of the entire empire. The prince is puzzled by the sudden change in the heroine's expression. The prince's inner voice decides to let the girl make her own choice, even though the young man doesn't want to leave her here. The young man offers to make the girl's coming of age her last day in Elheim. The red-haired young man who arrived at the estate notes with a grin that nothing has changed here. Enlias greets his late brother, and Dantharion, the second son of the Elheims, jokes about the spirit stone. Dantharion, one of the best awakened, permanently changed the color of his natural black hair. The boy then went to the palace to serve in the guard of Princess Ninian. Einlius informs his brother that the spirit stone is where it always is. The elder brother reproaches Dantharion for delaying, but he only brushes it off, citing his busy schedule. Seeing the glow of the stone, the red-haired guy admits that he would have arrived earlier if he had known about the seriousness of the situation. Einlius wonders with irritation if his brother has always been so frivolous. Those awakened in the Elheim family cannot create water, but are able to manipulate it with a special ability called control. The stone's energy is getting out of control, becoming stronger with each passing second. A shocked Einlius doesn't understand what the hell is happening before his eyes. A mysterious silhouette of a young man appears from the blinding light and water. A beautiful spirit with blue hair opens her eyes and asks the strangers who they are. Dantharion feels immense pressure, knowing that such power is beyond the reach of mere humans. The brothers look in amazement at the divine being hovering in the water. The impudent spirit is enraged that the impudent fool dares to interrogate him. A powerful stream of water throws both brothers against the walls of the mysterious creature. The blue-haired youth introduces himself as the 10th divine weapon and Urine's first contractor. Dantharion freezes in shock upon hearing the mention of the first head of the Urine family. The stranger, with a grin, announces himself as the one people call the Spirit King. The Spirit King inquires whether the brothers are descendants of Urine, noting their incredible strength. The mighty creature repeats its question without loosening its grip on the watery bonds. Dantharion realizes with horror that the Spirit King will kill them if they do not respond. Einlius reports that Urine's child is outside now and offers to bring him here. The Spirit King orders that Urine's successor be brought in 3 days, after which he falls asleep. The brothers understand that in 3 days, there will be a hunting competition and a banquet. The Duke and his sons stand before the locked door, unable to enter. Dantharion sarcastically remarks that someone should have stayed inside, to which his father responds angrily. Einlius reports to the Duke that the Spirit King has ordered Urine's successor to be brought in 3 days. Einlius is sure that the door will open if Liane is brought, but no one knows where the boy is now. The Duke considers whether to interfere with Liarte, but Einlius suggests respecting Liane's wishes. The long-awaited day of hunting competitions in the sun-drenched forest arrives. Mikhail notices Liarte in the distance, who is talking about something with Liane. Prince Burs does not like the scene he sees, and at that moment, the Duke approaches him. The blindfolded young man tells the Duke that he feels fine and is looking forward to a fun day. Mikhail thanks the owner with a smile, knowing that only one seal remains and his vision is almost restored. The prince realizes that Duke Elheim still considers him a blind scarecrow. The young man decides that it will not be difficult at all to live up to these humiliating expectations. In the memory, Lian suddenly grabs Liarte by the hand, which frightens the girl. Mikhail, with a sly smile, thinks that what is happening between brother and sister is a different matter. Liart reflects on the strange behavior of Lian, who in his past life never took a girl hunting. The young man promises to bring the heroine some loot, but the girl coldly replies that she doesn't want anything. Lian insists that Liarte come up with a wish and grabs her hand again. The girl asks that instead of killing the silver fox, she bring it alive. Lian looks at her hand and promises to keep the promise she made to her sister. Left alone, Liarte cannot understand Lian's motives, which she dreamed about so much in the past. Mikhail's sudden appearance interrupts the girl's thoughts, and the young man looks at her with a smile. The heroine asks in surprise how the prince found her, and the guy replies that he just came here. In fact, Mikhail admits that he followed the refreshing scent of Liarte, which was carried on the wind. Mikhail is concerned about the girl's eyes, and then notices marks on her hand, suggesting that Liarte was in pain. The girl brushes it off, saying that she is used to this, but Mikhail asks Liarte not to get used to pain. The prince looks at the heroine tenderly and says that he does not want the girl to get used to pain. The heroine asks why the young man came, and Mikhail answers with a smile that he just wanted to see the girl. Liarte, illuminated by the sun, admits with a sincere smile that she is glad that the young man has arrived. The embarrassed prince jumps up and awkwardly suggests that perhaps it's time for them to go. The girl asks Mikhail if the young man will come to today's banquet, and her gaze becomes thoughtful. A memory emerges where Lian orders Liarte to come to the banquet after the hunting competition. Mikhail happily agrees, wanting to dance with the heroine, and promises to teach her when the girl says she doesn't know how. The prince says goodbye with a warm smile, promising to meet at the banquet. Lian finds a piece of silver wool on the ground and picks it up thoughtfully. Dantarian is puzzled as to why Lian needs the silver fox, and Einlius suggests leaving his brother alone. The duke turns to Lian, noting that the silver fox is quite a difficult prey. Lian asks again about the silver fox with surprise, as if not understanding what is being discussed. The duke explains with a grin that this is the breed that their ancestors hunted and is now almost extinct. Holding the wool in her hand, Lian comes to the conclusion that this is probably the last silver fox in Elheim. The boy remembers his sister's request to bring the fox alive and firmly decides to catch it. Liarte hopefully thinks that then, perhaps, everything will return to normal. The young man resolutely makes his way through the forest thicket, following his goal. Lian finally spots the silver fox, and his eyes light up with triumph at his successful find. Lian is horrified to discover that the silver fox has been killed. A huge boot steps next to the dead animal, and Lian angrily asks what this all means. Mikhail scornfully remarks that the sighted prince of Elheim has worse skills than a blind man. The blindfolded boy leaves, advising Lian to be faster next time. Mikhail drops an ominous warning that Lian could lose her girlfriend again, infuriating the boy. Liarte sits in the room with a gift from Lian, which the girl has not even opened, remembering the past. Much has changed since the heroine's rebirth, including the visit of the imperial family and the upcoming banquet. These events should not have happened, and the girl does not understand why the future has changed so much. There is a beautiful dress in the gift box, and Liarte wonders if an ordinary princess would like it. In the reflection, the heroine sees herself in the past, with uncut hair and in an old, faded dress. The realization that the girl's face is 3 years younger seems ridiculous and impossible. Liart clasps his hands, determined to write his own future with his own hands. It's evening after the hunt, and a luxurious carriage drives up to the palace under the starry sky. The beautiful Princess Ninian waves her hand enthusiastically, greeting Prince Lian. Ninian happily hugs Lian's hand, exclaiming how long it has been since they saw each other. Lian greets the princess with restraint as she continues to hold on to the boy. The Elheim brothers note with disappointment that the princess did not even greet them. Ninian teases Dantarian about his hair color, and he sheepishly agrees. Einlius respectfully greets the arriving Crown Prince Lucas, who has not seen him for a long time. The Crown Prince mentions the gift he received and inquires about the hunting competition that took place today. Einlius reports with a strange smile on the successful completion of the hunting competition. Crown Prince Lucas notes with suspicion the strange expression on his interlocutor's face and wonders about the whereabouts of Michael Beers. Mikhail appears in the center of the luxurious ballroom, attracting the attention of all the guests. Lucas mentally rejoices at the integrity of the curse, while the frivolous Princess Ninian inquires about her brother's thoughts. The golden-haired girl chatters carelessly about Leanne's upset appearance on today's hunt. Ninian admits to wanting to get closer to his sister Leanne because of the twins' striking resemblance. The Crown Prince contemptuously reflects on his sister's naivety and the true reason for the Duke's hatred of the talentless copy of his best heir. A sudden noise at the entrance makes the haughty Einleus turn around in irritation. Liarte appears at the top of the grand staircase in a dazzling blue dress. Mentally apologizing to her mother for being late, the girl gracefully descends to the guests. Princess Ninian and the Crown Prince are absolutely delighted by the modest girl's incredible transformation. Dantarian and Enlias are speechless at the sight of their sister's unprecedented beauty. Liarte's perfect posture and imperturbable grace make everyone recognize the girl as a true, noble lady. A shocked Leanne cannot believe that the same downtrodden and hidden-from-the-world child is standing in front of the crowd. Memory throws up images of the past to the young man, where a rejected girl vainly begged a cruel family for love. Now, in the eyes of her grown-up sister, Leanne sees only a scorching, icy cold. Mikhail gallantly extends his hand to the beautiful lady, offering the first dance. The blind prince gently invites Liarte onto the dance floor, while Leanne watches in horror from behind her opponent. Mikhail's mocking warning about the risk of losing the girl forever due to delay pops into the dark-haired brother's mind. Liarte accepts Mikhail's invitation with a joyful smile and places his hand in the young man's. Mikhail compliments the girl and suggests that he once liked her. Crown Prince Lucas watches the dancing couple, and Liarte reminisces about the royal family's past. In a past life, assassins attacked the banquet, and Mikhail lost his sight due to a curse. The girl realizes that behind all these events is the royal family, using ancient magic. Liarte understands that today's visit is only needed to check the integrity of the curse. The heroine asks Mikhail if they can dance like this openly in public. The prince replies with a smile that he wanted to tell her everything later, but the girl had already guessed everything. Mikhail confidently leads his partner in the dance, knowing that the crown prince still thinks he is blind. The young man invites Liarte to move to Beers when the girl grows up. With a gentle smile, the prince invites the heroine to come with him, offering his protection. Leanne watches the dancers in fury, thinking that Liarte should never leave Elheim. The boy vows to forever bind his sister to their house when he takes the place of the Duke. Princess Ninian complains of pain in her leg, and Leanne suggests they stop dancing. The Crown Prince, with a glass of wine, decides to submit his application for training, as was customary. Duke Elheim refuses the request, much to Lucas's surprise and displeasure. Leanne approaches her father and tells him that she needs to tell him something. The young man announces to the stunned Duke his intention to marry. Leanne announces that the engagement will take place immediately after the coming-of-age ceremony. Lucas grins knowingly, guessing the Duke's intentions. The Crown Prince notes that the Duke's youngest son is a very serious and cautious man who cares for the princess. Princess Ninian gratefully accepts the Duke's care. Leanne mentally notes that it wasn't out of concern for the princess, but decides to keep the misunderstanding. The dark-haired boy realizes that there is a reason to carry out the coming-of-age ceremony faster. Clenching her fist, Leanne decides to use her power to prevent Liarte from leaving. Liarte finds herself in a room where she hasn't been for a long time, in the place where her father taught her discipline lessons. Flashbacks show a small, frightened girl standing in front of her stern father. The Duke angrily scolds Liarte for yesterday's dance with Prince Burs. The father demands excuses, but the girl coldly asks if they are necessary. Liarte asks defiantly if there is a problem with her dancing with Prince Burs. The Duke looks in bewilderment at his changed daughter, who had always been withdrawn. The enraged father accuses the girl of rebellion, knowing about the family's hatred for the birth family. The Duke declares that he has no intention of treating Liarte as his daughter because she is Elheim. The girl, with icy calm, replies that she too does not consider the Duke her father. A painful memory emerges of how her father wished for Liarte to be part of the family. The Duke asks his daughter if she understands what she is saying, but the girl only confirms her words. Liarte finds it hypocritical to suggest that she should stay away from Burs. With disdain, the girl asks if she is part of the Elheim family, leaving the Duke stunned. The Duke shouts in rage, "How dare she say such a thing, knowing what kind of room this is?" Liarte, with pain in her eyes, replies that every time she heard these speeches here, it hurt her ears. The flashback shows the music room of the Duchess, whom she loved until her death. The Duke, with a cold voice, declares that Liarte's mother died, and it's all because of the girl. In the memories, the father hatefully blames his daughter for her mother's death because she was born unawakened. Liarte knew that the Duchess's health had deteriorated after the birth of her 3 sons. The mother held on to the twins until her last breath and died immediately after their birth. The girl asks defiantly whether the mother's last wish was to take revenge on the child who killed her. Without waiting for an answer, Liarte turns to leave, leaving his stunned father behind. A bright memory emerges where the mother tenderly says that she loves her daughter because she is her child. The Duke thinks with bitterness that his wife died because Liarte was born unawakened. The father painfully realizes that this is why this child will never become part of the Elheim family. The Duke is convinced that Liarte will never awaken, while the Spirit King awakens in the water. The final seal is completely removed, and Mikhail looks at Liarte with gratitude. The young man notices that the girl looks unwell and asks with concern what happened. Liarte admits that she was in the disciplinary room, and Mikhail's gaze turns icy. The prince sees no marks on the girl, but hopes that she was not the target of a beating. Mikhail tenderly invites the tired heroine to rely on him. The girl trustingly cuddles up to the young man, and he hugs her back. Mikhail can't believe that Liarte opened up to him for the first time, showing her vulnerability. The prince praises the girl and says that she should not try to impress those who do not respect her. The young man asks with a serious look if he can find out what Elheim's people did to Liarte. The heroine looks at the prince, not knowing where to begin the story of her suffering. Liarte begins his story with the first memory, holding the prince's hand. The girl remembers how, as a very small child, she woke up alone in front of a snow-covered house in the mountains. They simply abandoned her, making sure that there was enough food to last for some time, and there was no one around. After a long time, they returned for the heroine, but only to use her as a tool to suppress Leanne's abilities. Liarte bitterly admits that perhaps it would have been better to stay in that house. The girl talks about how hard it was to live in constant fear of undeserved anger and ridicule. Despite everything, the heroine tried very hard to make her family love her and wanted to become their happiness. But now, Liarte understands that she doesn't care about the noble Elheim family. Mikhail hugs the girl tightly, shocked by her story and strength of spirit. The young man solemnly promises to help the heroine escape from the hated Elheim. The prince asks the girl if she has a wish that she would like to fulfill after leaving this terrible place. Liarte replies with a smile that she always dreamed of seeing the sea, at least with one eye before she died. Mikhail tenderly promises in the name of Birsa that he will come for her on the day of her coming of age, and the girl will see the sea. Finally, the day appointed by the Spirit King arrives, and the Duke orders the door to be opened. Elias opens the door, and the men resolutely enter the hall, where a powerful being awaits them. The Duke feels the overwhelming power of the water, and realizes that before him is truly the Spirit King. Elias kneels and announces that he has brought the true owner of the Spirit Stone, as ordered. The Spirit King opens his eyes and asks with disappointment if this is why he was awakened. The powerful creature contemptuously calls Liana a fake, leaving the guy in shock. The Spirit King declares that Liane is not the one who awakened him, leaving the youth in complete confusion. The enraged Spirit King accuses the Elheims of deceiving him and trying to sell him a fake. A powerful creature with blazing eyes threatens to kill everyone present for their insolence. The brothers panic, and the Duke shouts that Liane is definitely the owner of the Spirit Stone. The Spirit King sadly notes that the Duke truly does not know, but he senses the truth. In the depths of the water, the silhouette of a girl appears, the reincarnation of Jürgen, who awakened him. The Spirit King declares that the true owner of the stone is in the estate and orders him to be brought. The Duke kneels in fear, and a terrible guess comes to him if it is not Liane. Father brings all the highborn awakened ones, but the Spirit King's answer remains the same. In his office, the Duke is confused as to where it all went wrong, and whether Liane might not be the owner of the stone. Father orders that even the lowborn awakened in the estate be checked just in case. Einlius tries to calm Liane down, saying that he will still become the next Duke. Dantarian announces his return to the palace to the princess, and promises to return when Liane comes of age. The servant reports that Mr. Bierce is leaving, and the Duke is surprised by his early departure. Mikhail's assistant doubts whether it is okay to leave before the time runs out. The prince, holding the fox in his arms, replies that the curse has been lifted, and now much preparation remains to be done. Mikhail says with a smile that he must have time to do everything in order to meet Liarte properly. Liane approaches the prince, who grins and notes that saying goodbye is a great honor. Mikhail thanks Leanne for his care and says that thanks to the Elheims, there was not a single boring day. Leanne notices the fox cub in the prince's arms and asks if he is taking it with him. Mikhail confidently replies that he will certainly take with him what belongs to him. Mikhail says goodbye with a smile, saying that they will see each other again. Leanne coldly replies that she is not sure that a new meeting is possible for either him or his sister. Several months have passed since Mikhail's departure, and Liarte is sitting in his room. The girl notes that nothing special happened, except that Leanne moved her room. Now the room is more suitable for a noble lady, and Liarte wonders about other changes. Leanne enters the room, and the girl coldly asks why he is here. Leanne approaches her sister's bed and asks her about her wishes before her upcoming coming-of-age ceremony. Liarte replies with bewilderment that this is his ceremony, so why is he asking about her wishes? The guy asks the girl to stop looking out the window as if she wants to run away. Leanne threatens that Liarte will never leave Elheim and will only die here. The heroine remembers Michael's promise and confidently thinks that this time Leanne is wrong. Princess Ninian searches for Dantharian, wondering where he has disappeared to again. Dantharian appears before the princess with a smile, enveloped in his power. Ninian scolds the boy for hiding his presence and remaining silent. Dantharian calmly replies that he is here to serve the princess as unobtrusively as heir. The princess announces with a smile that a new maid has arrived today. Crown Prince Lucas, accompanied by a servant, descends the stone stairs into the dungeon. The servant reminds that Mr. Lian's coming-of-age ceremony is in 3 days. Lucas muses that he needs to take a closer look at the mysterious creature. A powerful entity appears before the crown prince, the half-blood spirit king, passed down through the royal family. 2 mysterious silhouettes in cloaks are watching someone with undisguised admiration. A fair-haired youth with burning eyes is plotting a treacherous plan to establish his power. His accomplice, with a satisfied smile, promises to fulfill any wish of his master. The guy receives a mysterious bottle from the assistant, clearly intended for dark deeds. The red-eyed hero confidently proclaims the invincible power of his royal line. The assistant expresses concern, but the young man only resolutely turns away, holding the vessel. A sinister black powder with dangerous cleansing properties bursts out of the bottle. It becomes clear that one touch of this substance will drive you crazy. The young man looks at the bottle with smug satisfaction, confident that it will be enough for his purpose. The boy is shocked to the depths of his soul, realizing the crown prince's terrible secret. Tensions mount in the lead-up to the mysterious Leonrius's coming-of-age ceremony. The young man in the red vest is in a panic, because the owner of the Spirit Stone has still not been found. An oppressive atmosphere reigns in the living room as the hero reports his failure to his elders. The guy irritably thinks about the situation with the Spirit King, which is not changing at all. He watches his father with concern, realizing that the strength of their family is incomparable to the power of the Water King. The brown-haired hero coldly asks about Liarte's plans after she comes of age. The fair-haired youth disdainfully mentions Leanne, who has recently become obsessed with the girl. A grown man with gray hair mercilessly declares that he will get rid of her after the ceremony. The guy in the blue uniform, with despair in his eyes, asks to let Liarte stay in the family. The man is adamant because they have no legal right to keep the girl, but he is ready to take extreme measures. Leanne angrily reproaches her father for hypocrisy, recalling his own cruel words about Liarte. The guy, with chilling ease, offers to make the girl crippled if she disobeys. The young man, with a devilish grin, gives Liana carte blanche to commit any atrocities against the heroine. Dantharian is tormented by doubts, but believes the words of the Spirit King, who called Leanne a fake. The weight of the stigma of being a fake weighs heavily on the young man, as it came from the lips of the king himself. Liarte anxiously awaits tomorrow's ceremony, sensing that it will change absolutely everything. The girl is determined to uncover a secret that has been bothering her lately. Her suspicions are heightened by the thought of a sudden summoning of all the awakened to the temple. The heroine finds herself in front of a mysterious door, to which only a select few have access. Taking a step into the unknown, she finds herself in a huge hall, feeling completely alone. Suddenly, she sees a blue-haired spirit floating in the air, and she freezes in amazement. In the features of the mysterious creature, the heroine recognizes with horror a familiar image from her past life. The blue-haired young man addresses her as if he had been waiting for this meeting for an eternity. He calls her his mistress, plunging the girl into a state of complete shock and bewilderment. Liarte denies their relationship, but his quiet response makes her doubt her own memories. A glowing mark flashes on her hand, irrefutable proof of their ancient contract. The spirit reveals that their connection extends beyond life, as she is the reincarnation of its owner. The girl tries to comprehend the incredible. She is the embodiment of the legendary founder of the family. When the spirit touches her hand, it begins to penetrate into the deepest corners of her memory. Seeing her suffering, the spirit becomes filled with icy rage and passes the death sentence on her entire family. Liarte bitterly realizes that her family blindly believed the impostor and rejected the true heiress. The spirit, with frightening ease, suggests that she drown the entire empire in blood for the sake of revenge. The heroine refuses a bloody reprisal, considering her tormentors unworthy of such an honor. He learns with interest about her plans to leave this hated place and go to Beard. An ancient secret is revealed. The spirit is bound by a powerful seal that he himself once created. His departure threatens to upset the delicate balance, as the seal on the Spirit King could weaken. Hearing a strange voice, the girl looks around in panic, afraid that they were overheard. The spirit decides to interrupt the meeting, promising to reveal all the cards when the right time comes. With sadness in his voice, he says goodbye, sincerely wishing her to find happiness in her new life. Liarte looks at the fading light with confidence, knowing that this is far from their last meeting. Having disappeared, he mentally swears that her offenders will regret their fateful decision. The day of the ceremony arrives, and the luxurious hall fills with guests in anticipation of the main event. The white-haired boy is surprised to notice Liarte's presence at her twin brother's celebration. Liane, with a smug smile, declares that this day belongs to both of them as twins. His brother Huaming is concerned that the girl is being escorted as if she were a dangerous criminal. The hero dismisses his brother's concerns with cold indifference, considering them empty words. Huaming tries to appeal to his reason, reminding him of the laws that protect the awakened. Liane puts her brother in his place with a sly grin, sarcastically reminding him of Liarte's true status. Taken by surprise, the boy sheepishly apologizes, unable to resist his brother's cruelty. After the humiliating conversation, Huaming hurries away, leaving Liane alone with his dark thoughts. Liane maliciously dreams of his sister remaining forever in his shadow, desperately needing him alone. His dark thoughts are interrupted by Princess Ninian, who naively congratulates the young man on his coming of age. The guy hides his dark side behind a mask of politeness, thanking the princess for her kind words. The girl hopefully starts talking about their engagement, unaware of her fiancé's chilling plans. Liarte feels like a prisoner under the constant surveillance of guards, disguised as false care. Michael's promise flashes through her mind, and she clings to the fragile hope of salvation. The celebration is suddenly interrupted by the arrival of an uninvited guest, who causes panic among those gathered. The Duke freezes in horror when he is informed that the insolent man has arrived from hostile beers. The charismatic Mikhail appears on the threshold with a cheeky smile, declaring that he is not late at all. The Emperor notices with alarm that the blindfold that held back the curse has disappeared from the young man's eyes. Father Liarte is furious when he recognizes the hated Michael Beers in the uninvited guest. He angrily attacks the guy, demanding an answer for the brazen invasion of his territory. Mikhail calmly retorts that he only came to pick up what he once left here. Liane looks at her opponent suspiciously, trying to figure out what forgotten thing he is talking about. Ignoring the threats, the young man extends his hand to Liarte, inviting her to leave with him. The heroine is stunned by his appearance, but he only smiles softly, apologizing for the long wait. A sudden burst of water magic throws Michael back, preventing him from even touching the girl. Liane, surrounded by the force of the elements, steps in front of his opponent, his face contorted with possessive rage. He looks at the stranger with disdain, claiming his indisputable rights to his sister. A deadly threat flashes in Liane's eyes, and he unhesitatingly promises to kill anyone who stands in his way. Mikhail calmly takes on the full force of the water element without flinching for a second. One of the guests watches the fight in horror, unable to believe that such a crushing force exists. Liarte stops the brewing battle with his commanding gaze, taking control of the situation. The two rivals exchange glances full of hatred and contempt, but the fight is already lost. The girl resolutely takes Michael by the hand, turning her back on her past and its main tormentor. She states that before escaping, she needs to put the final point in her old life. The Duke, confused, demands an answer, not understanding where his daughter got such incredible power from. Liarte, with icy calm, announces a complete severing of all ties with the family that betrayed her. 21 years of humiliation and pain that she endured in this real hell flash through her memory. Surrounded by the glow of her power, the girl vows that she will never again live as someone's shadow. She confidently turns to her savior, informing him that she is ready to go to a new world right now. The young man takes her hand with a warm smile, supporting her bold decision without further ado. As the carriage carries her away, Mikhail reflects thoughtfully on how persistent her family was until the very end. She remembers how her father, having lost all his pride, almost begged her on his knees to stay. Someone's words about how she will shine even brighter away from fools echo in her thoughts. The heroine looks out the window, still unable to believe that the nightmare is finally over. Mikhail gently removes a strand of her hair, causing the girl to look at him in surprise. With a gentle smile, he promises to help her heal from all the wounds inflicted in Elheim. Their journey comes to an end, and the coachman's voice announces their arrival at their destination. Liarte sees a breathtaking view of the sea in the rays of sunset, symbolizing the beginning of a new life. Liarte, with a sincere smile, sees in the sea not just beauty, but long-awaited freedom. Even when night falls, the girl cannot take her eyes off the sea, enchanted by its vastness. The heroine delightedly admits that reality surpassed all the fairy tales she had ever heard. Her sincere gratitude takes Michael by surprise, touching him deeply. A mutual confession of longing for each other becomes an unspoken promise to never part again. His words sound like a vow, promising her a future filled with light and happy moments together. Left alone, Lien plunges into an abyss of anger, blaming her rival for everything. He remembers the fateful moment when he first underestimated the cunning of the Burse heir. He is tormented by regrets that he did not lock his sister in the room, completely depriving her of her will. The grand ceremony turned into a complete failure, leaving the family to deal with the consequences of their fiasco. The Duke is shocked not so much by the escape as by the display of unprecedented power that they have suppressed for so long. Unable to accept defeat, he resolutely goes in search of answers, leading his subordinates along with him. In desperation, they decide to turn to the original source of power, hoping to find answers behind the sacred door. The Spirit King greets them with cold contempt, stating their greatest mistake. His rage is barely contained, for their stupidity has awakened in him the desire to tear them to pieces. The mighty Duke is forced to bow his head, begging for wisdom from the one they have ignored for so long. They finally ask a question, the answer to which could prevent the entire disaster. The Spirit sarcastically forces them to face their own ignorance and misinterpretation of the ancient will. He mercilessly destroys their main hope, calling their belief in prophecy fundamentally wrong. A revelation begins that will take them back to their roots and reveal the true meaning of their ancient heritage. The Spirit King begins his story with ancient times, when people and spirits lived in complete harmony. He speaks of the chosen ones, the awakened ones, who made pacts not with simple spirits, but with the kings themselves. The idol collapsed in an instant when one of the kings fell, closing the door between the worlds forever. The young man, horrified, assumes that this is the same creature from the palace dungeon. The spirit explains that this is why the awakened ones, having lost their connection, have lost their true power. He bitterly recalls how their great founder was also despised, considered a cripple, just like Liarte. His voice thunders with anger as he points at Lian, calling him a true impostor with an icy soul. The terrible truth comes out. Lian was a parasite from birth, sucking the life out of his mother. After birth, he continued to survive only by mercilessly sucking the strength out of his sister. The king passes his sentence. From now on, without Liarte, he will not receive a drop of water power. The Duke clutches his head in despair, unable to accept the fact that his entire life was built on a lie. Broken but not defeated, he madly decides to bring back Liarte, because she is the key to their power. Meanwhile, away from the chaos, the girl sleeps peacefully on her savior's shoulder until he wakes her up. Mikhail tells her with a warm smile that their long and grueling journey has finally come to an end. A majestic view of the Duchy of Burs, her new and long-awaited home, opens before the heroine. As soon as she steps out of the carriage, she is met with an unexpectedly stormy and joyful reception. Michael's father, Carmen Beers, appears before her, greeting her with disarming warmth. The young man sheepishly apologizes for his impatient father's excessive expressiveness. Liarte, unaccustomed to such kindness, bows and thanks the Duke for the reception he has given her. Mikhail will hug her encouragingly, letting her know that she no longer needs to strain herself so much here. Duke Carmen, with a warm smile, assures them that they are immensely indebted to her. As a sign of deepest respect, he lowers himself and kisses her hand. He speaks with sincere gratitude about the miracle she performed for his son. The girl modestly tries to object, recalling the invaluable help of Michael himself. The hospitable Duke enthusiastically invites her into his house, intriguing her with a special surprise. The heroine is puzzled because she is completely unaccustomed to such attention and care. The luxury of the chambers provided to her is stunning, a reminder of the high status of the duchy. Her heart flutters with the realization that all this splendor was prepared especially for her. A sudden knock on the door interrupts her thoughts, and she is surprised to allow entry. The girl who entered introduces herself as Merlin, her new personal maid. A memory from her past life of Merlin, the legendary assassin, flashes through her mind. A cold horror grips her at the thought of why they assigned a former assassin to her. The maid, with professional calm, assures that Liarte will be completely safe with her. She explains that this was a personal order from the master, who wanted to ensure her protection. Understanding her true motives, the girl accepts her help with relief and decides to trust her. Merlin offers to help her change her clothes, because her owners are already waiting for her in the garden. In the garden, the Duke waxes philosophical about the futility of raising children in a conversation with his son. Mikhail agrees with a cheeky grin, teasing his relaxed father. Their conversation is interrupted by the appearance of a transformed Liarte in an elegant new outfit. The girl politely apologizes for being late, still feeling a little awkward. Duke Carmen, with fatherly care, seats Liarte at the table, showing her respect. Without knowing her preferences, they prepared a whole feast for the girl, stunning her with unprecedented hospitality. Noticing her silence in front of the table with sweets, Mikhail anxiously asks if she is happy with everything. Her bitter admission that she doesn't know how to eat these sweets strikes men to the depths of their souls. With a charming smile, the girl asks to be taught, ready to discover a new world of tastes. The young man, with a warm smile, promises to be her patient mentor in this sweet adventure. He himself feeds her with a spoon the first piece of cake in her life, surrounding her with tenderness. The first bite causes a storm of delight in her, opening up completely new sensations. Father and son watch her sincere joy with affection, filling the tea party with warmth. Returning to her chambers, the girl enthusiastically shares her first sweet impressions with Merlin. Lost in happy thoughts, she didn't even notice how time flew by in this warm company. Her joyful thoughts are suddenly interrupted by a mysterious sound that breaks the silence of the night. She tries to attribute it to fatigue, but her heightened senses tell her that this is not a figment of her imagination. Merlin notices her anxiety, unaware of the ominous shadow lurking behind her. The heroine directly says that she heard the beast's sinister plan, trying to understand if anyone else hears it. Merlin calmly denies the existence of sounds and animals, causing Liarte to doubt the reality of what is happening. The girl decides not to argue for now, but a shadow of doubt and anxiety has already settled in her soul. Meanwhile, in his office, the Duke, with obvious irritation, deals with the consequences of their daring escape. He reads the letter of complaint with a contemptuous grin, anticipating the next steps of his enemies. It becomes clear that her former family and their allies are not going to let the most powerful awakened in history go so easily. Duke Carmen, with a sly smile, ponders how they should respond to the Crown Prince's intervention. His loyal assistant reveals the true motives of the Crown Prince, who is eager to bring about the downfall of their family at any cost. Carmen, with a confident grin, predicts the enemy's next move, a marriage proposal to Liarte. He thinks with firm determination about the girl whom they will never send back to that hell. The Duke casually tosses the letter aside, ordering his assistant not to bother him with such trifles anymore. The assistant meekly agrees, but his gaze shows that the conversation is not over yet. With a chilling smile, Carmen gives the cruel order to break the hands of anyone who dares to write to them again. In her luxurious bed, the girl cannot fall asleep. Still not believing in the reality of what is happening, she is overwhelmed with gratitude, because without this escape, she would never have experienced so much warmth and care. Her memory of the conversation with Merlin comes to life, and she realizes that the Beerses have become true guardian angels for them. The maid promises with firm confidence that this house will become a refuge for her as well. The girl recalls the tragic story of Merlin, saved from the life of a murderer thanks to the intervention of the Duke. The maid promises her with a warm smile that even the most ordinary days will become special for her here. Thoughts of the ordinary life that Merlin values so much make her think about her own future. She can't reconcile the image of the ruthless killer from the past with the caring girl she sees now. She is determined to find out the cause of the strange illness that is driving the inhabitants crazy and to prevent disaster. The same sound is heard again, and the girl jumps out of bed, now sure that she was not imagining it. Driven by anxiety, she goes to the window to finally understand the source of the mysterious noise. Seeing a night patrol, she throws on her cloak and decides to go in search of answers herself. The guard offers to accompany her on a night walk. Unaware of the true purpose of her exit, the heroine sends the guard away with a gentle smile, insisting that he fulfill his direct duty. The young guard persistently offers his help, concerned about her safety in unfamiliar surroundings. The girl accepts his proposal with a sly smile, realizing that arguing now is useless. During her walk, her heightened hearing tells her that the source of the mysterious sound is in the other direction. Ignoring the warnings, the heroine resolutely heads in the direction her intuition leads her. Her search leads to an unexpected encounter with the Duke of Carmen, shrouded in a mysterious night glow. Her suspicions grow as she wonders what could have brought the Duke to a secluded mansion in the middle of the night. The man notices her curiosity with a warm smile, easily reading all the emotions on her face. He intriguingly avoids a direct answer, offering her something completely different in return. Instead of explanations, the Duke hands her a simple candy, continuing to introduce her to forgotten joys. Carmen gently invites her to try the new delicacy, showing surprising sensitivity to her past. Liarte gratefully accepts his modest gift, touched by his unexpected gesture. There is a sincere hope in his gaze that this small gift will bring her joy. The Duke suddenly changes the subject, and the girl freezes in doubt as to whether she should reveal to him the true reason for her walk. She decides to take a chance and see if the Duke is more receptive to her concerns than Merlin. The heroine resorts to an innocent lie, but his evasive answer only increases her suspicions. Their gazes meet in a silent duel, and he makes it clear that his secrets will remain with him for now. Carmen decides to end the conversation by flicking her finger to summon a silent guardian from the shadows. He gives orders to ensure her safety, showing that her well-being remains his top priority. The girl obediently leaves, but her nighttime foray only raised more questions about the secrets of this house. Liarte realizes that Carmen deliberately took her away to hide something important. Her thoughts return to the mysterious mansion, and she wonders what secret it hides. The next day, Merlin reproachfully reminds her of the night's incident, hoping for her prudence. Her thoughts are interrupted by a familiar voice, which makes the girl's heart skip a beat with joy. Michael appears in the garden, and his presence fills the morning with sunlight. He notices with a warm smile that she has fallen in love with this place, delighted by her good mood. The girl enthusiastically confirms his words, enjoying the beauty and space that she so lacked. His gaze becomes serious, but he is glad that she finally feels at home here. The young man notices a candy in her hands and asks in surprise where she got it. The young man, with a shadow of sadness in his eyes, understands that his father prepared this treat especially for her. He explains that there is no one else in their house who could wish for sweets. A sudden revelation about her grandfather, the only sweet tooth in the family, makes Liarte think. She realizes that she hasn't seen anyone except Carmen and Michael the whole time, and this seems strange to her. The guy notices a change in her face, worried by her sudden thoughtfulness. Plucking up her courage, the girl decides to share her nighttime worries with him. Hearing about the mysterious crying coming from the mansion, his gaze becomes impenetrable and cold. He remains silent, but his reaction only confirms that he knows much more than he says. Without giving her time to come to her senses, he decisively takes her hand and leads her along. Merlin panics and tries to stop him, begging him not to take the girl to this dangerous place. Mikhail, with an offended voice, reproaches the servant for her distrust, making it clear that he himself will protect Liarte. The maid desperately asks for forgiveness, admitting her stupid mistake. The noble young man reassures Liarte, promising to make sure that Merlin has no reason to worry. A guy with a charming smile invites a girl to go with him, and the heroine shyly agrees. The young man takes Liarte to an old mansion, intriguing her with an upcoming surprise. Before entering the ominous room, the hero asks the girl to promise to hide behind his back in case of danger. Inside the room, Liarte is overcome by a freezing cold, and the girl anxiously thinks about what horror is lurking in the darkness. Noticing the heroine's fear, the young man gently reassures Liarte, assuring her of his protection. Words of support make the girl smile gratefully at her companion. Suddenly, Liarte's gaze freezes in horror when the heroine sees something completely shocking. A terrifying picture appears before the girl's eyes. Her grandfather, Aaron Beers, sits tied up in a dungeon. Liarte looks at the exhausted Aaron in despair, trying to understand what happened to the head of the family. The girl's companion explains that grandfather Liarte went mad for an unknown reason, and no one knows how to cure him. The guy reveals the terrible truth. Aaron was supposed to be killed, but his father ordered that the unfortunate man be simply locked up. Liarte notices with horror the bloodshot eyes and animal-like fangs of his grandfather. Memories take us back to the first war unleashed by the Beers family, which brought a crushing defeat to the imperial family. At the center of those events was the legendary Michael Beers, nicknamed the Demon of Battles and a terror to his enemies. When everyone had lost hope of stopping Michael, the young crown prince proposed his own cunning plan. The crown prince took out a vial of mysterious black powder, intending to use it against the demon. This powder turned out to be a cursed substance that turns any person into a merciless beast, devoid of reason. The crown prince's plan failed, and it later became clear that only an awakened person could remove this poison from the body. Liarte recalls with horror that in his past life, the only owner of the black powder was the crown prince. The girl's companion comes to a chilling conclusion. The crown prince is to blame for Aaron Beers's madness. A distraught Aaron lets out a wild, inhuman scream, full of pain and rage. The young man hugs the frightened Liarte tightly, protecting the heroine from the horrific sight. A guard named Hans comes running to the noise, apologizing for leaving his post, but the young man calms his subordinate down. Hans and his partner look with relief at the young master and Liarte, glad that they are safe. The boy irritably scolds the servants for their inappropriate curiosity, ordering them to greet Liarte properly. Hans and Andre bow respectfully before the girl, greeting their new mistress. The red-haired young man introduces himself as Hans with a smile. The black-haired guy with green eyes says his name is Andre. Two servants announce that they serve Master Aaron. The hero turns to Liarte with concern, noticing how pale the girl turned after what she saw. Liarte tries to hide her fear behind a weak smile, assuring that she was just a little scared. The young man's thoughts return to the terrible realization that the crown prince had used the cursed powder on Aaron. It becomes clear that for this insidious plan, the crown prince needed someone whom Aaron trusted implicitly. In his chambers, the crown prince is angry that the awakened one ended up on the Beers' side, rather than being lured to his side. The crown prince laments that he destroyed an entire city for the sake of a curse in front of Michael Beers, and now all his work has been wasted. When a servant announces a visitor, the crown prince angrily asks what fool dared to appear uninvited. An elegant Carmen Beers appears at the door, introducing herself with a cheeky grin as the fool. The crown prince sarcastically remarks that Duke Beers must have lost his mind to think that having acquired the awakened one, he has become invincible. Carmen asks with a grin if the crown prince himself has gone mad since he couldn't get a single awakened one. The crown prince coldly warns Carmen Beers that he will no longer tolerate such insolence. The duke calmly retorts that he too will lose patience if he receives even one more lousy letter demanding that he give up the child. Carmen squeezes the messenger's hand, causing him to cry out in pain, and blood appears on the duke's bandaged palm. The man's eyes flash ominously when Carmen promises that next time, she won't just break the hand of the dirty paper delivery man. The duke bows, begging your highness not to force him to become serious. The enraged crown prince seethes with rage, asking if this insolent man is threatening him. Carmen, with an innocent smile, denies the threat, calling her words just a request. The duke ends the conversation by expressing the hope that the Beers family will not receive any more letters. Left in silence, the crown prince calls his frightened assistant, Count Fetus. The crown prince, with a devilish grin, decides to teach the arrogant fellow a lesson by ordering his blood to be transfused to Aaron Beers. In his room, Liarte reflects on yesterday's conversation with Hans and Andre. The servants' words surface in their memories, saying that Master Aaron was their benefactor, and they could not abandon the man even after the tragedy. The girl comes to the conclusion that Aaron Beers could not have taken the powder voluntarily, which means the criminal is one of the three most trusted people. The maid notices Liarte's depressed state after returning from the small mansion, and asks with concern about the cause of the alarm. The heroine tries to hide her feelings, but the maid persistently offers her help. After some thought, Liarte makes a decision and asks to arrange a meeting with Duke Carmen. At the same time, Carmen stands in front of her tied-up father Aaron and coldly greets her parent. The Duke takes out his pistol, bitterly declaring that today he must kill his father, ending the long delay of the inevitable. Carmen lowers her weapon with regret, realizing that she will not be able to commit this terrible act today either. Duke Carmen notices the unexpected guest and says with surprise that the little guest has come to visit. Liarte greets the Duke politely, explaining that she disobeyed Marilyn and came to tell him something important. Carmen smiles and realizes that Marilyn had a hard time because the maid was told not to let anyone in. The girl, looking at the gun in the man's hand and at the tied-up Aaron, insistently says that she must have time to tell everything before it's too late. Gathering her courage, the heroine makes a shocking statement. Liarte can cure madness. Carmen is stunned by this confession, and then the girl hopefully asks if the Duke trusts her. The man closes his eyes in relief, assuring them that he completely trusts their benefactor. Liarte's smile brightens, and she thanks Carmen for her trust. The Duke tries to stop the girl, warning her of danger, but Liarte confidently replies that everything is fine. A bright blue energy envelops the heroine, who calmly asserts that there is no danger here. Liarte recalls how, in a past life, Elheim discovered a way to neutralize the black powder using the powerful energy of an awakened being. The healing power is directed towards Aaron, and the girl explains that this healing will happen gradually. The suffering on Aaron's face turns to peace under the influence of the magical light. Liarte tells Carmen that she has invested the energy of water, so everything will be fine with the former Duke today. The Duke, amazed, asks incredulously if this madness can really be cured. Carmen still can't believe what she saw, and asks Liarte to explain how this is possible. The girl says that she knew awakened ones who turned into wild animals, and then the Duke demands an answer as to how she knows all this. The heroine reveals the main secret. Only a strong awakened one can heal from the curse of the black powder. Liarte assures that she did everything in her power to help the former head of the family. Carmen asks, with a glimmer of hope, if this means he won't have to kill his father anymore, and Liarte firmly answers yes. Liarte asks Carmen to keep everything that happened a strict secret from the others. The Duke says, with a knowing smile, that Liarte must have noticed something was wrong too. Carmen comes to the horrific conclusion that Andre, Hans, or Marilyn poisoned his father. The girl admits that she has not yet identified the spy, and Carmen warns her of the danger, agreeing to act secretly for now. The man, with a warm smile, declares that Liarte knows more about madness than anyone else, so the Duke will completely submit to her will. Carmen explains that she won't be able to accompany the girl every time, but she won't allow her to come here alone either. The next day comes, and Liarte goes back to the ominous tower to continue his treatment. At the foot of the stairs, a young man meets the girl, extending his hand and asking her to be careful. The heroine understands that before her stands that same trusted knight, Michael, who promises to protect Liarte in case of unforeseen danger. Before entering the dungeon, Liarte asks Michael to move away a little so as not to interfere with the process. The girl, with a confident smile, assures her guard that she will be completely fine. Inside the cell, Aaron looks up blearily at Liarte, who stands thoughtfully. Unexpectedly, the heroine hands Aaron a small piece of candy to attract his attention. Surprised, Michael asks Liarte how she came up with such an unusual method. Liarte, with a sly smile, recalls that Michael himself told about his grandfather's love for candy. The girl assumed that even in madness, the reflexes of the former head of the family would work for his favorite delicacy. Filling the candy with healing energy, Liarte mentally asks the former Duke to hold on a little longer. Michael asks with concern in his voice why Liarte is trying so hard, since she will be protected no matter what. The heroine, with a warm smile, replies that Aaron Bierce is dear to his family, and her desire is to protect the heart of everyone on this earth. Having completed the healing session for the day, the girl steps away from the prison bars. Liarte informs Michael that it will take a week or two for the black powder to be completely eliminated. The girl resolutely declares that before that, it is necessary to find the traitor who plunged the former Duke into madness. The heroine reflects that poisoning the head of the family secretly and over a long period of time was not an easy task. Liarte comes to the idea that it is worth looking for evidence in the former head's room. Lost in thought, the girl wonders how to get inside the locked chambers. Michael suddenly appears, explaining his appearance by saying that he saw Liarte from the Tower of Roses. The young man asks where the girl is heading, and Liarte evasively replies that she has somewhere to go and something to think about. The heroine sheepishly admits that she wants to find evidence of madness in the former head's room and asks for help. Michael gently touches Liarte's cheek, assuring her that there is no place on the estate where the girl cannot go. The guy with a warm smile tells Liarte that she can go wherever she wants and do whatever she wants. The young man leads the heroine to luxurious doors, announcing that this is his grandfather's room. Michael allows Liarte to stay in the chambers as long as he wishes to satisfy his curiosity. The girl notices that the room is perfectly clean, although her grandfather hasn't used it for about a year. Liarte asks if anything in the room has changed since then, but Michael replies that not much. The heroine's attention is drawn to ancient books that are not even found in Elheim. Suddenly, Michael pins the girl against the bookshelf, looking intently at Liarte and asking what happened to her face. The hero notices with a grin that the girl's cheeks have turned slightly red and playfully asks if he imagined it. Embarrassed, Liarte suddenly hugs Michael, hiding her face in his chest. The puzzled young man calls the girl by name, not understanding the reason for such a sudden reaction. Liarte looks up, her gaze shining, and boldly admits that she wanted to do it because she likes Michael. Michael leans down to Liarte's face for a kiss, asking cheekily how about it. The idol is destroyed by Andre, who suddenly enters and shyly asks everyone to ignore him and continue. An enraged Michael mentally sentences the servant to death for daring to ruin such a moment. Liarte is surprised to see Andre, and Michael explains that Marilyn, Andre, and Hans take turns cleaning the room. The girl's gaze falls on a large jar of candy, and Michael explains that this is his grandfather's favorite treat. The young man recalls how Aaron, despite the prohibitions, collected and secretly ate unhealthy sweets in huge quantities. A terrible guess dawns on Liarte. If the former head of the family loved candy so much, they could have been used for poisoning. A terrifying picture forms in the girl's head. Black powder could have been mixed into the sweets, poisoning Aaron without any suspicion. Holding the possible murder weapon in his hand, Liarte makes a firm decision to immediately meet with the former head of the family. The girl decisively tells Michael that she will go on alone, causing the guy great concern. The heroine asks her companion to trust and wait, explaining that she needs to verify something personally. At the entrance to the small mansion, Liarte meets Andre, who is surprised and asks the reason for her visit. The girl, with a serious look, tells Andre that she has several important questions for him. Liarte shows the servant a black candy and asks him directly if he knows anything about such sweets. Memories take the heroine back to the past, to the time of the war between the Burses and the royal family, where all the answers lie. In a past life, Carmen was likely forced to kill his own father, believing it was the only way to end his suffering. Having learned that the royal family was behind his father's madness, the Duke declared war, in the battles of which professional killers were seen. Among the mercenaries, Marilyn was spotted, whose skills were terrifying. Also participating in the battles was Andre, known for his piercing cat-like eyes. Third on the list of killers was Hans, about whom Liarte, unlike the others, had never heard anything. Hans meets Liarte and asks with surprise what brought Milady at such an hour, to which the girl replies that she came to visit the former head. The servant remarks with a grin that there is no chance of improvement, and is about to scold Andre for letting the heroine go alone. Liarte notes that Hans and Andre are very close, and the servant confirms that they have spent a lot of time together since being rescued by Master Aaron. The girl begins the interrogation by asking whether it was Hans's responsibility to check the chief's food for poisons. Hans denies it, shifting the blame to Andre, but Liarte states that it is not about food. The heroine takes out a black candy and says that she found the sweet in the former head's room. Hans, feigning surprise, swears that he is seeing this candy for the first time in his life. Liarte, with icy calm, accuses the servant of denying everything until the very end. The heroine delivers a crushing verdict. Hans brought candy to the Beers estate to poison the head with black powder. The flashback shows Andre telling Liarte that it was Hans who chose and brought this candy. Andre recalls that even after Aaron's condition worsened, Hans continued to purposefully give the gentleman rare black candies. Liarte exposes the traitor's motive, claiming that he was afraid of going mad and periodically fed Aaron poison. Caught red-handed, Hans attacks Liarte in a rage, trying to force poison from the vial into her mouth. Michael suddenly appeared and with a lightning-fast movement, neutralized the traitor, pinning Hans to the ground. The young man apologizes to Liarte for not keeping his promise to wait, explaining his actions as a desire to protect the girl. Duke Carmen emerges from the shadows, declaring that he could not stand by while someone dear to him was in danger. Liarte looks at Carmen in surprise, and the Duke explains that he heard everything from Michael and came out of excitement. The girl smiles with sincere gratitude at her saviors, feeling completely safe. Carmen grabs the defeated Hans by the hair, declaring with cold fury that he has finally discovered who the traitor is. The fact that Beerses are resistant to most poisons flashes through my mind, so a simple poison wouldn't work. Michael looks at the vial of red liquid with concern, assuming that it is someone's blood. Liarte warns that this liquid may cause an unexpected reaction when in contact with black powder. The girl confidently declares that she will first completely cure the former head and only then begin an investigation, assuring that she has found a way. Liarte directs a powerful stream of water magic at Aaron, promising to free his mind from madness today. A huge vortex of healing energy lifts Aaron into the air under the complete control of the heroine. A shocked Carmen cries out in surprise, not understanding what incredible sight is happening before him. The heroine calms the Duke, explaining that she is trying to heal the former head with the help of magical water. Liart recalls that only the power of the awakened can penetrate into the most remote corners and wash away all traces of evil. The girl understands that for a complete healing, it is necessary to fill the entire body of the former leader with water magic. Aaron is suffocated by the water flow, but Liarte begs him to endure a little longer. With unwavering determination, the girl swears that she will definitely save Aaron. The magic dissipates, and a healed Aaron stands on his own feet, shocking everyone. Carmen looks at her father with disbelief, not believing that he can already stand on his own. Michael and Liarte approach Aaron with concern, asking how he is feeling. Aaron, having come to his senses, asks in surprise where he is, not believing that the madness has receded. The former head of the clan asks in bewilderment what the hell is going on and who this strange girl is. Suddenly, Aaron shouts in rage that he will never allow Elheim into their family, recalling the death of Michael's mother. Michael stands resolutely before Liarte, declaring to his grandfather that he will not send the girl away, no matter how much he protests. An angry Aaron issues an ultimatum, declaring that in this case, he will leave himself. Carmen exclaims in horror, not understanding what makes her father say such things. Liarte bitterly declares that he is not Bierce, so it would be better for the heroine to leave. Michael and Carmen cry out in despair that they will never drive Liarte away. The girl explains with sad determination that she cannot allow the newly reunited family to fall apart. The heroine turns to leave, and Michael, in a panic, shouts at the girl to wait. Aaron abruptly stops Michael, preventing the young man from rushing after Liarte. The young man angrily yells at his grandfather, asking how he can drive away Liarte, who healed Aaron with her power and saved everyone. Aaron looks at his grandson in bewilderment, not believing that this girl actually healed the former head. The realization of what he had done hits Aaron, and the man covers his face with his hand in despair. Liarte, alone, reflects that the former leader's hatred towards her is quite natural. The memory of the long-standing feud between the Elheim and Bierce families comes to mind, which cannot be changed by anything. Tears of despair roll down the girl's cheeks at the thought that the heroine again has nowhere to go. Michael hugs the crying Liarte tightly, begging the girl not to leave. The young man calls Liarte his savior and reminds her of his vow to protect the girl until the end of her life. The young man firmly declares that Liarte has every right to stay here, despite his grandfather's words. Aaron suddenly appears and asks the savior to stop. The girl says with pain that she will leave Beers right now, but Aaron, with tears in his eyes, firmly answers no. The former head, with deep remorse, says that he is the one who should apologize. The man admits that he remembered how Liarte used her power to heal him and helped not only him, but also his grandson. Aaron, with tears in his eyes, says that he wants to repay the debt and let the girl stay. Liarte, with tears of hope and embarrassment, asks if the heroine can really stay here. Aaron warmly tells Liarte that the girl can spend her entire life in Bierce if she wants. Overwhelmed with happiness and relief, the heroine feels her last strength leaving her. Michael and Aaron scream Liarte's name in horror as the girl loses consciousness. At the Beers estate, a worried Duke Carmen asks about Liarte's condition and is told that it is nothing serious. Carmen suggests that Liarte passed out due to overexertion and depression. Michael thinks with bitterness about how much Liarte has put on her fragile shoulder. The butler, Aleph, enters Carmen's room to tell the Duke something. Aleph reports that a letter has arrived from the palace. It seems they have learned about the healing of Mr. Aaron. Aaron grimly wonders how the palace will react when they learn of the failure of their assassination attempt. Aleph adds that the rain that began in Bierce poured down throughout the empire, probably due to the lady's abilities. Liarte comes too and sees Michael leaning over her, who calls the girl by name with relief. The young man explains that Liarte lost consciousness and was rushed to the infirmary. Michael and Carmen are concerned about the girl's condition, asking if she is okay after using so much power. Liarte tries to calm his defenders, saying that everything is fine and thanking them for their concern. The young man admits that everyone was very worried when the heroine lost consciousness. The girl curiously asks who exactly Michael means by the word everyone. Carmen and Michael jokingly suggest kicking out Grandpa so that Liarte can feel comfortable. Aaron, with fatherly concern, says that Liarte needs rest and suggests leaving so the girl can relax. The man sighs with relief, glad that everything is okay with Liarte. Meanwhile, clouds are gathering over the majestic imperial palace. The crown prince asks his mother in surprise what brought her here, to which she asks if her son has heard the latest news. Empress Terencia reports that she has heard rumors of Aaron Bierce's return to life. The woman angrily scolds her son, not understanding how Aaron could have survived, and accusing the crown prince of incompetence. The crown prince cries out in despair that it is not his fault, because the perfect plan was thwarted by a girl from Elheim. The empress coldly asks if her son intends to stop there, and the crown prince assures her that there is another way. With a devilish grin, the crown prince promises that this time the Beers will be completely destroyed. Terencia sternly warns her son not to dare disappoint her again. Left alone, the crown prince reflects that although the assassination attempt failed, he is still confident of his victory. The crown prince calls his assistant to find out if there is any news from Hans. The assistant reports that although the attempt failed, a letter has arrived from Hans stating that the issue has already been resolved. The crown prince, with a sinister smile, understands that this has been taken care of, and the Beerses do not have much time left. At the Beers estate, Liarte and Michael go out into the garden together, where they are already awaited. Carmen and Aaron are happy to welcome Liarte and ask about her well-being. Young people notice that the former leader is still a little uncomfortable after everything that happened. Liarte asks Aaron with concern about his condition, and he replies that he feels incredibly light. Carmen says with a warm smile that it's all thanks to Riri. The girl asks again with surprise what this strange nickname means. The Duke explains that the word is from the language of the small kingdom where his mother comes from. Michael adds that his father gives the nickname Riri to anyone he truly loves. Liarte shyly touches the beautiful and sweet nickname, feeling a tremulous feeling and realizing that this is what happiness feels like. Liarte admires the beautiful teacup, and Michael explains that he brought it especially for the girl. The heroine is touched to the depths of her soul, realizing that all this was prepared just for her. Liarte sincerely thanks everyone for their concern and nickname, saying that it means a lot to her. Michael replies with a gentle smile that this is just what a girl should always have. Liarte shyly thanks Michael, feeling truly happy. Carmen and Aaron assure her that they want to give the girl everything she was deprived of, and allow her to fulfill any wish. The heroine dreams that this moment will last forever. Liarte says hopefully that she would like to try drawing. Carmen approvingly remarks that drawing is a great hobby and promises to prepare everything necessary. Michael asks with interest what the girl will draw first, confident that it will be wonderful. Liarte suddenly notices the absence of Marilyn, whom she has not seen all day. The young man, with a mysterious smile, informs that Marilyn is currently busy with something in the basement. Carmen calmly drinks tea, reporting that during interrogation, Hans confessed to working for the crown prince. The Duke adds that, despite torture, Marilyn and Andre were unable to extract a word from the traitor about his activities in Bourse. Liarte is horrified to think about what Hans has been sniffing around for all this time, and understands that he can't just leave it like that. The heroine decides to carefully review in her memory the events that preceded her rebirth. A sudden memory of the former leader's funeral makes the girl shudder. Liarte recalls that before the war began, a great fire occurred in Birsa, in which half of the servants died. Michael notices Liarte's concern and suggests conducting a joint investigation. Carmen enthusiastically takes up the idea, suggesting that they explore the surroundings of Beers, including places where Hans had been, under the guise of a walk. Aaron indignantly asks what kind of walk there could be in such a situation, but Michael playfully asks if his grandfather would like to go for a walk with Liarte. The former head of the family sheepishly agrees, and Michael, with a satisfied look, remarks that he knew it. The young man suggests postponing the walk until tomorrow due to Liarte's poor health, and the girl agrees. The heroine takes a sip of tea, thinking that after curing the former leader's madness, she can go for a walk. Liarte vows with determination to protect all the people important to her in Bursa. Meanwhile, in Elheim, a young man approaches his father to ask him something. The young man recalls the recent rain that fell across the empire. The young man with mid-hair admits that he was not the only one who felt something strange. The white-haired boy asks if his father felt something similar. A disturbing assumption arises that the strange sensations may be connected with Liarte's departure from Elheim. Elsewhere, a man worries about what to do if their water magic disappears completely. Liarte notices that she has started sleeping much more in Birsa, surprised by her comfortable state. Marilyn tells the lady that she heard about her plans for a walk, but Liarte corrects that it looks more like a patrol. The maid warmly notes that the atmosphere in the estate has improved since Liarte's arrival. Marilyn says that before there was always a certain distance and awkwardness between the young gentlemen. The maid prepares drawing supplies for Liarte, as she requested. The heroine, with a mysterious smile, says that for now it's a secret what exactly she's going to draw. Marilyn is looking forward to seeing the lady's creation, promising to show the result as quickly as possible. The maid asks if anything was learned during Hans's interrogation. Marilyn reports that they have managed to find out what kind of liquid the traitor had. It is human blood, most likely belonging to the crown prince. A mysterious flashback shows how mixing black powder with royal blood caused a massive explosion. The maid confirms that feeding the former head of the house would be tantamount to attempted murder. Full of gratitude, the maid thanks Liarte for saving her master's life from a terrible fate. The girl modestly replies that saving someone important to others was simply a necessary act. Chilling information emerges when a maid reveals that one of the servants has been repeating an ominous phrase at midnight tonight. A terrible realization dawns on the heroine that the tragic fire from her past life is destined to happen again this night. A handsome young man named Michael suddenly appears at the door, ready to take Liarte with him. After the maid leaves, the golden-haired guest admires the stunning beauty of the young lady. The sudden alarm on Liarte's face ruins the joyful moment, letting Michael know there is a serious problem. The young man directly asks the worried girl what happened that upset her so much. Liarte is torn between doubts about whether Michael will believe the prediction about the fire, based only on memories from a past life. Kneeling, the young man vows eternal support and faith, convincing the girl to trust him completely. The guy looks at the heroine with hope, begging her not to go through the upcoming difficulties alone. Gently kissing Liarte's hand, Michael asks her to share with him what is so troubling her soul. Memories of loved ones who always believed in her give the young lady determination. Plucking up her courage, the girl reveals a terrible secret, that tonight at midnight there will be a fire in the Bursa estate. Shock and astonishment are reflected on Michael's face, who immediately connects the news with the suspicious Hans. Liarte confirms the guy's guess, because Hans was wandering aimlessly around the estate, indicating his involvement. The heroine shares her ominous premonition, which is why she was planning to inspect the estate during her walk. Having realized the full danger of the situation, the young man decisively declares the need to immediately check everything. Michael suggests telling his father and grandfather everything so that they can confront the impending threat together. The girl is amazed to realize that the guy unconditionally believes her every word, as he promised. A gray-haired man named Riri asks the heroine if she has any ideas about how the fire was started. Liarte shares his terrifying suspicion that powerful ancient magic may be involved in this matter. The Crown Prince's past attacks using dark magic suggest a repeat of the tragic scenario. The main mystery for the young lady remains the exact method by which the attacker intends to use his magic. Reflections lead Liarte to the conclusion that any curse must have a hidden source somewhere nearby. The entire company's gaze turns to the mysterious lake, which Riri identifies as a key location. The elderly man reports that Hans spent most of his time at this lake and even went into the water. The brave heroine declares that she will quickly inspect everything and resolutely heads straight for the water. Michael and the elderly man panic and shout at Liarte not to go into the dangerous water. Amazed observers discuss the girl's unique ability to walk on water, inherent only to her kind. The heroine reassures everyone from the surface of the lake, declaring her intention to check the deepest sections. Liarte comes to the logical conclusion that Hans definitely hid something at the bottom, since he went into the water. A sudden and unpleasant discovery stuns the girl, as her power cannot control the water in this place. The certainty that the source of evil is close gives the young lady the strength to continue her search despite the difficulties. Liarte's gaze falls upon an ominous stone, covered with glowing ancient writings at the very bottom. A loud splash scares the men to death, causing them to scream in horror the name of the girl who dived. The brave heroine triumphantly emerges from the water, holding the magical artifact she found in her hand. The guy confirms Liarte's guess that this stone is most likely the source of the sinister magic. Riri is seething with rage, listing the endless troubles: Michael's curse, her father's madness, and now the arson attempt. A terrifying guess dawns on Liarte that the villain must have hidden similar sources throughout the estate. The heroine reminds everyone that time is running out, and all the artifacts must be found before midnight. The girl approaches the gray-haired man with an important request, and he listens attentively. The young lady begs for everyone to be evacuated from the estate as soon as possible, and Riri immediately agrees. Liarte rejects Michael's idea of using knights, fearing counterfeits and believing that she can handle it faster herself. The determined girl demands to be immediately taken to all the places where the suspicious Hans was seen. The caring young man offers to carry Liarte in his arms to save precious time and tenderly asks permission. The young man explains that because of the narrow alleys, carrying the heroine will be much faster than riding in a carriage. The girl gives her consent, and the guy carefully picks her up in his arms, hugging her. While in Michael's arms, Liarte announces his intention to find and destroy all sources as quickly as possible. The older men anxiously ask the heroine not to overexert herself so as not to accidentally injure herself in a hurry. The determined girl wants to repay the boundless trust that everyone has placed in her words. In the arms of the guy, the young lady makes a silent vow to protect him at all costs. Exhaustion overcomes the young man, who finds the 8th artifact, realizing that there are still many more. Liarte encourages Michael by informing him that there are only 3 final places left to be tested. The golden-haired hero hurries his companion because the sun is about to set, and there is no time left. A huge flame suddenly engulfs the entire estate right before the shocked couple's eyes. Horror distorts the faces of the heroes at the blood-curdling realization that one place has been missed. Despite the fire raging around him, the young man tries to calm Liarte, promising that everything will be fine. The young man is confident that his father has evacuated everyone by this point, so the fire will be put out quickly. The young man looks in horror at the fiery monster in the sky, realizing that the source is that very cursed place. In that place lies the source of the terrifying death power of the Bierce family, contained within an ancient tree. Michael is horrified to think that power could be released, and Liarte asks fearfully about the consequences. The guy reveals the terrible truth that the power of death is fatal to ordinary people, even from one touch. Michael explains that the imperial family likely started the fire, hoping to release power and kill everyone in Bursa. A terrifying thought comes to mind that in the worst case, the power will spread throughout the empire, and the enemies would not go to such lengths to kill servants. Liarte remembers with horror that in her past life, the fire was in a different place, and she realizes that she changed the future. A knight suddenly appears and screams in panic that the power of death is about to be released, and everyone needs to leave immediately. Shocked, Liarte asks the knight if he really wants her to save herself alone. The knight explains that there is an awakened one in Bursa who can teleport one person to save Liarte from the deadly force. The worried girl immediately asks about the fate of the knight named Walter and all the other servants in the estate. The heroine is overcome with panic at the thought of how she can escape alone, leaving everyone else to certain death. Walter, smiling, assures the young lady that the others will also be saved, so there is no need to worry. Liarte realizes with horror that the fire is spreading too quickly, leaving people no chance of salvation. In Michael's arms, the determined girl declares that it is her duty to immediately extinguish this destructive flame. The men try to dissuade the heroine because the fire is too large, and even all the water in Bursa will not be enough to extinguish it. Despite warnings about the dangers of ancient magic, Liarte refuses to stand by and watch people die. Remembering her promise to Michael, the girl calls upon the powerful element of water to protect Bursa from the fire. A sudden revelation reveals a terrible secret. The water in these lands will not extinguish the magical fire, but will only intensify it. Liarte realizes that she must call upon the strongest possible rain to stop the disaster. In a touching remembrance, Michael vows to always protect the girl and be her savior. A brand new character with gray hair enters the room, offering to talk for a bit. The blue-haired youth recalls with dismay how he visited Liarte's room every day after her disappearance. The grief-stricken man cannot believe that the true heir was so easily snatched from under their noses. The gray-haired hero suggests sending the letter to Burse again in a desperate attempt to get a response. A sudden torrential rain begins outside the window, catching the man off guard with its unnaturalness. An inexplicable and disturbing feeling overcomes the guy when he looks at the raging elements. The man falls to the floor in agony, horrified to realize that his magical powers are rapidly fading away. His comrade gloomily predicts that soon the entire Elheim family will be left completely defenseless and powerless. A few days later, Liarte is in the garden and realizes how much her current life differs from her past. The heroine looks at the estate with great relief, knowing that all the inhabitants of Beers are now completely safe. The memory of the powerful downpour leaves Liarte perplexed, as the girl did not feel any relief at all. Instead of weakening, the young lady feels an incredible surge of water energy that only grows inside. The heroine cannot shake the feeling that a long-lost and important part of her essence has returned to her. A shocking realization dawns on Liarte that her power may have been stolen all this time by people from the Elheim family. The girl's thoughts are interrupted by the sudden appearance of a charming silver fox, who cuddles up to her hand. The young lady is touched by the cute creature, gently stroking its head. The caring heroine takes the animal in her arms, trying to understand where it came from and whether it got lost. Michael suddenly appeared and greeted Liarte with a charming smile, finding her out for a walk. Liarte smiles and tells Michael that she just went out to get some fresh air. The young man asks in surprise if the girl in Birsa keeps a silver fox. The heroine sheepishly admits that she actually brought this animal from Elheim. The boy explains that he didn't want to show the fox so soon, fearing bad memories for Liarte. The surprised girl does not understand why it is necessary to train such a cute animal, but the young man reveals its ferocious nature. Liarte hugs the fox tenderly, confirming that she really likes her. A satisfied smile appears on Michael's face, because his gift was well received. The girl smiles and thinks that people around her are too worried about her while petting the fox. The caring young man gently places his hand on Liarte's shoulder, reminding her that he worries about her more than anyone else. Michael's gaze becomes serious when the boy expresses hope that the heroine will no longer be in danger. The young man asks Liarte to simply stay close to him next time to avoid trouble. The hero repeats his vow to always protect the girl, regardless of danger and difficulties. Liarte gratefully accepts Michael's words that she is the most important thing to him. The guy's warm words calm the heroine because he wants to be there and does not reproach her for recklessness. The idyll is interrupted by a butler named Aleph, who informs the couple of his arrival. An elderly servant reports that the Duke is calling the young people for an important conversation. In the office, the Duke greets the guests and inquires about Riri's well-being, who thanks her for her concern. Michael asks the man directly what exactly he wanted to discuss with them. The Duke, with a mysterious smile, announces that it seems the time has come to pay the bills. Liarte guesses that they are talking about the Imperial Palace, and the Duke confirms that she is right. The Duke, with a devilish grin, announces his shocking plan to burn the Imperial Palace to the ground. Michael and Liarte inquire about the plan, and the man confidently states that there are spies in the palace. The gray-haired hero offers an alternative: to catch and interrogate those responsible for the fire, leaving the choice to Liarte. In a funny moment, Michael questions Liarte's cruelty, but the Duke laughs that it's time for her to get used to family matters. The girl seriously declares that after all the atrocities of the Imperial Palace, she will not stand aside. The heroine respects the family's choice, but begs them to make sure that no innocents are harmed during the revenge. The Duke, smiling, assures the young lady that her wish will be fulfilled exactly. Liarte changes the subject, revealing that after calling down the rain, she felt not a weakening, but a surge of strength. A shocking truth hits the men when the heroine shares her guess that her power was being sucked out by the people of Elheim. The girl wonders what will happen when the Imperial family finds out about this. The Duke, with an icy gaze, asserts that the enemies will definitely not let this go. The man explains the long-standing connection in which the Imperial family courted the Elheim for their unique abilities. The evil plan is revealed as Elheim attacked Beers to contain their power, but now they themselves have become useless. The Duke reflects on Elheim's fate with a chuckle, stating that it is no longer their concern. The man's hand hovers over the chess piece, as all that remains now is to watch the enemy's inevitable collapse. In the palace's luxurious apartments, the crown prince lazily lounges in a sun-drenched bed. The villain smugly reflects that the Burse estate should have already burned to the ground, avenging an old grievance. Hearing a knock, the crown prince gives permission to enter, and an excited messenger bursts into the room. Lying in bed, the villain boasts of using ancient magic that was supposed to ensure the destruction of Beers. The messenger, with horror on his face, reports that the fire at the Burse estate was extinguished almost immediately. The crown prince is furious and cannot believe that his magical flame could be extinguished so easily. A terrifying realization dawns on the villain. The Lady of Elheim is behind it all. Anger distorts the crown prince's face at the thought that this woman has once again ruined all his plans. The young villain clutches his head in despair, amazed by the girl's incredible strength. A cunning plan is born in the prince's head, who decides to get her at any cost, even making her the crown princess. The heir to the throne orders the count to immediately investigate everything about the girl's past in Elheim. A sudden flame engulfs the palace windows, taking the crown prince and his companion by surprise. Panic grips the prince, who cannot believe the fire in the imperial palace and blames the Burses for everything. A servant girl ran in and conveyed to the heir the emperor's urgent order to appear immediately in the throne room. In the throne room, a messenger reports to His Majesty that the crown prince has been delivered as ordered. The emperor, with icy calm, reports that he has received a report of a fire in the crown prince's palace. The fire turns out to be no ordinary fire, and even the palace water is unable to extinguish it. The angry ruler asks his son directly what he did to deserve the enmity of the Burse family. The father angrily reminds the prince of his express prohibition against provoking the powerful Beerses. The crown prince is completely perplexed because, according to his plan, the Burse family should have already burned to the ground. The heir does not understand why his father forbids touching the Beerses, since their destruction would eliminate the main threat. The emperor reports that he has sent a request to Elheim and orders them to be met with due respect. The cunning villain decides to use Duke Elheim to put out the fire and then find a way to get the lady. A soldier bursts into the throne room with a report of the immediate arrival of Duke Elheim. The ruler orders that the duke be asked to put out the fire, but immediately mentions a problem that has arisen. The emperor does not see the problem, confident that the arriving Elheims will quickly put out the fire. Shocking news hits the ruler when a soldier reports the Elheims' categorical refusal to extinguish the fire. Duke Elheim is alarmed to realize that their mighty water power is mysteriously disappearing. Despair grips the family members, as the lower ranks have become ordinary people, and the powers of direct descendants are severely limited. The head of the family clenches his fist, realizing that using the last of their power would leave them as helpless as those they despised. The Elheim family members who arrived at the palace are confused and discuss the imperial order and their terrible dilemma. The white-haired youth offers his father to get out, but the duke is adamant, ordering everyone to remain in the carriage. The duke decides to take a wait-and-see approach, declaring that Elheim will not interfere in the conflict between the Beers and the imperial family. One of the family members, perplexed, asks the head what exactly he is trying to accomplish by his inaction. The duke repeats his strict order: no one will leave the carriage or use their magical power. A young man with glasses asks in horror if the duke is really ready to deprive himself of all his abilities in order to put out a fire. The angry head of the family shouts that the only right decision now is to declare his non-interference in someone else's conflict. Suddenly, the question arises about the whereabouts of a certain Dantarian, whom no one has seen since the start of the fire. The duke's face contorted with rage at the thought of the useless fool who had disappeared at such a critical moment. The emperor rides up to the carriage on horseback, reproachfully noting that too much time has passed. The ruler, with icy calm, says that he understands the Elheim's reluctance to interfere in other people's squabbles. The emperor's gaze turns steely as he gives a direct order to use force immediately. The duke realizes that the emperor is not stupid, and suspicions have already arisen in his mind due to their strange behavior. The ruler repeats his order with emphasis, demanding the immediate use of force, making the duke nervous. The trapped head of the family tries to stall for time, feigning bewilderment and asking where exactly the power of water should be applied. The emperor points to a small greenhouse, ordering the Elheims to extinguish the fire there. The duke, in desperation, orders the bespectacled boy to use his power and put out the fire. The young man struggles to concentrate the weak water magic in his hands, which is about to fade away. The attempt fails, and the exhausted boy falls, unable to stay on his feet due to the pain. The boy screams in despair that Elheim's worst fear has come true, and they have lost their power. The Duke challenges the Emperor if there is enough evidence, and the ruler confirms that he has clearly seen the power of water. The cunning monarch notes that only the third son has demonstrated strength, and now it is the turn of the Duke himself. The Emperor offers a deal. If the Duke shows his renowned strength, all suspicions will be removed. Cold sweat breaks out on the forehead of the head of the family at the thought that the ruler knew about their fading abilities from the very beginning. A terrifying realization dawns on the Duke that without water magic, their family will lose all influence and become defenseless. The ruler eagerly urges the head of the Elheim family, urging him to finally begin. Cornered, the Duke struggles to summon magic, but only a weak spark ignites in his hand. Two guards turn around in confusion at the strange sound, not understanding what is happening around them. A huge, ominous magic circle appears in the sky, causing everyone to be shocked and confused. A powerful explosion rocks the Imperial Palace, and fire instantly spreads through the halls, sowing panic. A mysterious cloaked figure descends a spiral staircase, confident that the target is somewhere nearby. The stranger searches for the man the Crown Prince is hiding and notes his difference from the Spirit King. The young man's gaze falls upon a beautiful floating spirit girl, and the boy triumphantly announces that he has found her. The young man looks at the spirit in surprise, feeling that something here is clearly not as it should be. Suddenly, the spirit girl's eyes widen, and her frightening gaze meets the astonished gaze of the young man. The young man notices with a smile that the mysterious stranger has finally woken up. The spirit utters the mysterious phrase, "I am the past," leaving the guy completely bewildered. A crazy idea strikes the stranger, who, with a sly grin, asks if a spirit can turn back time. The spirit confirms that this is possible, and the delighted young man realizes that his surveillance of the Crown Prince was not in vain. The mysterious entity smells water from the young man and asks him directly if he is the awakened one of water. The spirit's face twists into a sinister grin as she declares that his body contains a fake. The young man, perplexed, asks about a certain Liana and does not understand why the spirit called her a fake. A mysterious woman offers a deal to find her other half so that she can become the perfect Spirit King. In exchange for help, the spirit promises to easily turn back time, making the guy think about such an incredible possibility. The spirit demands proof of its connection with the past and asks to produce a fake as soon as the chance arises. The guy puts forward a counter-condition to put out the fire in the palace to prove his words. The spirit agrees with disdain, declaring that after this, he will sleep again for several months. The spirit easily agrees, because if the guy brings a fake, it won't be a big problem for her. The mysterious entity formally accepts the deal, extending its hand and promising to wait for the counterfeit. The huge purple magic circle appears in the sky again, causing the gray-haired Duke to look at what is happening in bewilderment. Suddenly, and inexplicably, the flames in the palace disappear completely, leaving behind only a bright glow. A young man with white hair looks at what happened in shock, unable to understand what just happened. A soldier bursts in to report to His Majesty, sharing the incredible news that the fire has completely died down. The Emperor looks incredulously towards the direction where the fire was raging, not believing that the flames have actually disappeared. The ruler's face becomes thoughtful and full of suspicion, because such a sudden disappearance of fire raises too many questions. The Emperor notes with regret that he did not see the power of the Elheims, but will look forward to the next time. The ruler threatens Duke Elheim that next time it won't be so easy to escape. The Duke realizes with horror that the Emperor already knows about the catastrophic situation with their fading power. The Elheim family members exit the carriage, admitting that the situation was truly dangerous. The white-haired youth says with alarm that the Emperor is now firmly convinced of their helplessness. The head of the family decisively declares that it is necessary to return Liarte back immediately. There can be no more delay. One of the family members, in a rage, suggests invading the Burse estate since they are not answering letters. The blue-eyed boy can't believe how much his father has changed, destroying the harmony in their family. The young man thinks with bitterness that now there is only hostility left between him and his father. The sudden appearance of the red-haired Dantharian takes his brother by surprise. The white-haired youth angrily demands an explanation from Dantharian about where he disappeared to at such a critical time. Dantharian replies with a cheeky smile that he is quite pleased with himself, which angers his brother even more. Instead of arguing, the older brother demands that they figure out how to return Liarte, but Dantarian confidently declares that he can bring her. The guy, with a grin, repeats his shocking statement that he can get the girl back. Dantarian addresses the mysterious Leanne, saying that the plan will only work with his consent. Leanne, with a sly grin, confirms that she will do whatever it takes if it will help bring her back. At the Bursa estate, a maid notices that a loyal silver fox follows her mistress everywhere. The maid admires the beautiful picture of the ocean that Liarte has painted and asks if she recognizes the place. The heroine recalls with a smile how on that day, she saw the endless ocean for the first time in her life. A touching flashback shows Michael bringing Liarte to the ocean after escaping from Elheim. The maid admires Liarte's first painting and offers to make a beautiful frame for it. The heroine, with a sly smile, announces that she already has someone to whom she wants to give her first job. Liarte finds Michael, who is surprised by her appearance with a painting in her hands. The girl confirms that she was looking for the young man to tell him something. Liarte hands the painting to the young man, explaining that it is her first work, depicting the ocean he showed her. Michael asks in surprise if the girl is sure that she wants to give such a valuable thing to him. A happy smile lights up the face of the boy, who thanks Liarte for the best gift in the world. The young man admires the heroine's incredible talent and invites her to take part in the competition. Michael tells of a prestigious, anonymous art competition at the palace, where Liarte's painting is sure to be the most outstanding. The girl recalls that she had already heard about this anonymous competition in her past life. There are 4 great ducal families in the empire, each with its own unique characteristics and influence. Besides the Duchy of Ilis, Elheim, and Beers, there is a 4th, most mysterious one. The 4th Duchy of Charon is shrouded in mystery, and its leader always keeps his identity hidden. Liarte recalls rumors that Duke Charon, under the pseudonym Jen Walker, would be the judge at the competition. The heroine understands that participation in the competition will give her a unique chance to meet the mysterious Duke and be of use to Burse. The girl decisively declares to Michael that she wants to take part in the upcoming competition. The young man is happy that he is not the first to receive her gift, which causes confusion in Liarte. In a funny moment, the chibi girl doesn't understand what the guy means, and he avoids answering. Michael, with a mysterious smile, says that his wish is still a secret and asks everyone to wait impatiently. Liarte, although he does not understand the hints, completely trusts the young man and promises to wait. The knight asks worriedly what happened, but Liarte only notes the suddenly darkened sky. Michael confirms that he also felt a sudden surge of strong energy. The girl is overcome with a bad feeling when she senses an ominous aura. The young man hugs Liarte, trying to calm him down and assuring him that nothing serious has happened. Michael's gaze becomes serious as he remembers that today the spies were supposed to set fire to the palace. Despite the alarming premonitions, the following days at the estate passed surprisingly calmly. After deciding to participate in the competition, Liarte began to practice drawing diligently. The girl gradually gets used to life in the Burse family, who constantly ask about her wishes. The heroine is surprised to realize that she has begun to smile much more often, something she could not have imagined in Elheim. Now, when thinking about Elheim, the young lady no longer feels anger, but only calm. The maid interrupts Liarte's thoughts, inviting her for a walk in the garden. Enjoying the good weather, the heroine and the maid stroll through the picturesque garden. The maid remarks that the heavens bless this special day, which leaves Liarte puzzled. The maid leads the girl deeper into the garden, where an incredible surprise awaits her. The entire Beers family greets Liarte with flowers and smiles, welcoming her to the celebration. Michael, with a bouquet of blue roses and a dazzling smile, congratulates the girl on her birthday. Liarte is shocked to realize that today is her birthday, which she had completely forgotten about. A sad memory mars the holiday, as this day also marks the date of her mother's death. In the past, this day was the day of Leanne's birthday celebration, not Liarte's. The girl spent every birthday in a dark room, watching the bright world that was out of her reach. Looking back, Liarte realizes that she wasn't very sad, because she considered this attitude to be normal. The silver-haired Riri explains that in honor of the holiday, they bought up all the blue roses in the empire, symbolizing her name. The heroine happily accepts the gift and notices how warmly everyone around her looks at her. For the first time in her life, Liarte is truly celebrating her birthday, something she never experienced in her past life. Michael gently takes the girl's hand, saying that meeting her is the greatest luck in his life. The young man kisses Liarte's hand, thanking her for being born into this world. The heroine is overwhelmed with emotion, because this is the first birthday when her appearance is not considered a sin. All members of the Beers family congratulate the young lady, and she thanks Riri for becoming a part of their family. Liarte asks doubtfully if it's normal that she suddenly became part of their family. Riri, with a warm smile, assures the girl that she is already one of them, and without her, the Burses would not be what they are now. Michael admits that he is incredibly happy to celebrate Liarte's birthday with everyone. Tears of joy well up in the heroine's eyes, overwhelmed with such warmth and happiness. In a funny moment, everyone panics and asks why the girl is crying, not realizing that these are tears of happiness. Liarte, wiping away her tears, admits with a smile that she is simply very, very happy. The young man, with a sly smile, declares that the celebration cannot end with just words. The former head of the family gives Liarte a ring with the family seal, giving her complete freedom of action. The Duke of Carmen presents the land and workers as a gift, making the girl the rightful owner. From Merlin, the heroine receives a beautiful handmade necklace as a gift. Walter and Andre also present the young lady with their modest but valuable gifts. In the evening, Michael walks Liarte to her room, and the girl thanks him for a wonderful day. Michael, with a mysterious smile, announces that the most important part of the celebration remains. The young man shows a room filled with 17 gifts that he has prepared for Liarte. The girl is amazed by the number of gifts, but the guy insists that one would not be enough. Opening the first box, Liarte finds an adorable teddy bear for her 4-year-old self. The young man explains that there are gifts here for every birthday that the heroine was unable to celebrate. Michael says tenderly that he wanted to celebrate all the birthdays the girl couldn't enjoy. A touched Liarte hugs the guy, whispering words of gratitude for such an incredible gesture. The flashback shows little Liarte, who feels saved by Michael's gift. A girl in a young man's arms understands that he himself is her most magnificent gift. Michael suggests holding Liarte's coming-of-age ceremony in Bursa, but the heroine has her doubts, as time has already passed. The guy confidently declares that it doesn't matter, and no one will dare to challenge the Birsov's decision. Liarte is worried about the possible appearance of the Elheim family, but the young man assures that everything will be fine. Meanwhile, in the Duchy of Elheim, passions are running high due to the news from Beers. The white-haired boy happily tells his father about the long-awaited letter, hoping that it is from Liarte. The Duke is furious to learn that the Burses have announced Liarte's coming-of-age ceremony in a few months. The head of the family is in despair, because they have no reason to take the girl back. The young man asks his father if they should go to the ceremony, and the Duke becomes thoughtful. Leanne, with a sly smile, asks why her father has doubts, since they will definitely go. The young man, with a devilish glint in his eyes, declares that they will proudly attend the ceremony as her real family. At the same time, Liarte is determined to reach the finals of the art competition in order to attract the attention of Duke Charon. Michael looks tenderly at Liarte, holding her hand, surrounded by flowers. The young man notes with concern that the girl is working too much and suggests taking a break. Liarte thanks the family with a smile for their concern and turns to the boy with a request for help. The heroine wants to use special materials for the competition and wonders if there are any in Birsa. The young man talks about the sacred paint donated by the Temple of Light, which is sponsored by their family. Michael explains with a grin that while paint is difficult for ordinary people to use, it is quite possible for a powerful awakened one. Liart recalls that in a past life, Duke Charon was looking for a man capable of reviving the sacred art. Full of determination, the girl asks if she can take this unique paint for her work. The boy readily agrees to bring the paint if that's what Liarte wants. Michael suggests taking a break from drawing and practicing dancing instead. In a funny moment, Liarte thinks that sometimes the young man's habits resemble those of a silver fox. During the dance, the guy praises the girl, noting that she has become a much better dancer. In recent days, the heroine has been completely immersed in preparations for the coming-of-age ceremony. In addition to preparing for the ceremony, the girl is diligently drawing for an art competition. Despite her busy schedule, Liarte always finds time for dance lessons with Michael. The heroine feels much more confident in dancing, but is still nervous when the guy asks her out. The girl tenderly thinks that perhaps the young man just wants to spend more time with her. During another dance, Michael turns to Liarte with an unexpected request. The guy suddenly makes a sharp movement, causing the girl to lose her balance and fall into his arms. The heroine apologizes for losing her footing, but the young man reassures her that everything is fine. Michael asks Liarte to dance his first dance with him at his coming-of-age ceremony, which shocks the girl. The young man asks the heroine if she knows about the special meaning of the first dance, but she doesn't understand what he's talking about. The guy explains that it is a dance between a man and a woman who have romantic feelings for each other. Michael looks at Liarte with concern and asks her directly what she thinks of him. The girl admits that she really enjoys the company of the young man. The heroine says that Michael's touch makes her heart beat faster and gives her happiness. Liarte, confused, embraces the young man, admitting that she does not understand what love is and that she is having a hard time sorting out her feelings. The girl explains that she was alone for a long time and did not pay attention to herself, so it is difficult for her to understand her emotions. The guy tenderly hugs the heroine, promising to be there for as long as necessary until she sorts out her feelings. Meanwhile, a new insidious plan is brewing in the imperial palace. A beautiful black-haired girl named Hestel Riven greets His Highness. The crown prince lazily asks if Hestel has studied the etiquette of high society well. The villain smirks and orders the girl to make sure her preparation for the upcoming event is impeccable. Hestel confidently declares that with her brainwashing abilities, Liarte will belong to the crown prince. The girl with a sly smile promises not to let her patron down. The crown prince's internal monologue reveals that Hestel is merely the baron's daughter, who became famous for her talent for drawing. The villain was attracted not by fame, but by the girl's unique ability to mental manipulation. The crown prince notices that Hestel looks a bit like a lady from Elheim, which makes her feel uneasy. The girl asks with feigned modesty if this is true. Their conversation is interrupted by a maid, who announces the arrival of an unexpected visitor. The crown prince guesses that the visitor is the very same mysterious Duke Charon about whom so much is said. The heir to the throne, with a grin, allows the mysterious guest to enter his chambers. Hestel bows politely, leaving the crown prince alone with the unexpected visitor. Duke Charon, wearing a mask, greets His Highness, who immediately inquires about the reason for the visit. The mysterious guest claims to have questions about the recent fire in the palace. The Duke recalls a strange fire in the Crown Prince's residence, which disappeared as suddenly as it appeared. The masked man is certain that the fire was caused in a special way and is somehow connected to the temple. The Crown Prince looks at his guest with suspicion, realizing that he knows too much, and asks him directly about his goals. Duke Charon asks only one thing: to be allowed to meet the one who extinguished the mysterious fire. A cunning thought dawns on the villain, who realizes that he can use this situation for manipulation. The heir to the throne agrees to arrange a meeting, but first wants to know the guest's true intentions. The crown prince offers a deal. If the Duke helps him, he will introduce him to that very man. The mysterious guest warns that if the crown prince's words turn out to be a lie, he will have to be prepared for the consequences. The look behind the mask becomes icy, for Duke Charon shows no mercy to those who deceived him. The crown prince smirked smugly, confident that even the emperor would not be able to reveal the truth about the flame's disappearance. The villain's internal monologue reveals his plan to temporarily cooperate with the imperial family. Merlin confidently reports that she sent everything without the slightest problem, as instructed. The maid admires Liarte's work, saying that even someone far removed from art will feel something enchanting in it. Michael says that it's time for them to go, because his father told them to come straight to his office. The heroine modestly thanks him for the praise, attributing her success to her unique colors, but the young man insists that it is due to her talent. Liarte is full of confidence, because if even Merlin appreciated her work, then Duke Charon will definitely notice it. Michael is glad that they will now have more time for each other now that the film is finished. The girl thinks with a smile that they have already spent enough time together, remembering their joint activities. The guy with a sly smile asks permission to ask a very abstract question about Liarte's latest painting. The young man shyly asks if the heroine can tell what exactly is depicted in her latest abstract painting. Liarte promises with a smile that one day she will definitely tell him her secret. In the office, Riri and his father greet the arriving Liarte and Michael. The former head of the family announces that since everyone is gathered, an important conversation can begin. Michael, sitting next to Liarte, asks with interest what the conversation will be about. Riri, with a mysterious smile, announces a grand plan to transform Burse into an independent principality. The surprised heroine asks what was the reason for such a sudden and bold decision. The gray-haired man explains that he has been thinking about this question for quite some time. From childhood, Riri was taught that the line between the royal family and Elheim was sacred. The ancient teachings forbade the Beers to take revenge, no matter what happened, but patience was running out. Remembering all the atrocities committed by their enemies, the Burse family decided that they could no longer remain on the sidelines. Michael agrees that they don't need to be tied to the Empire to live a peaceful life. Liarty suggests speeding up her coming-of-age ceremony a little. Much to the surprise of everyone present, the girl explains that she has received some very unpleasant news that requires immediate action. Riri is alarmed to learn that the mysterious and powerful Duke Charon has allied himself with the royal family. Although the enemy is not taking any active action, it is necessary to complete the ceremony and prepare for the transition to the principality. Liarte is alarmed to think that Duke Charon never united with the royal family in his past life. The heroine recalls that the mysterious Duke's only interest was the restoration of the sacred icon. The girl comes to the conclusion that the royal family made a deal with the Duke regarding this relic. Liarte is sure that, upon seeing her painting, Duke Charon will certainly try to find her. Meanwhile, the mysterious Duke Charon prepares to leave his luxurious mansion. A man with gray hair notices that the color of his hair is becoming paler. The servant announces that the carriage is ready, and the Duke resolutely heads for the exit. The Duke throws away the mask, declaring that he no longer needs it. The gray-haired man announces with a grin that he is now Jen Walker. At the exhibition hall, Jack Walker is met by a guide who shows him the paintings that have passed the selection stage. The escort asks which of the paintings, in the judge's opinion, stands out the most. Other cloaked judges note that the victory this time will most likely be awarded unanimously. Jen Walker's gaze falls on one painting, and he feels a sacred power emanating from it. The man is delighted to realize that he has finally found someone who can restore the sacred image. Overjoyed, the judge jumps up and demands to know immediately who painted this picture. The escort regrets to inform you that the work was submitted anonymously and the author is unknown. Jen Walker is determined to discover the identity of the mysterious artist at all costs. The man is sure that there must be a way to find the author and decides to go upstairs first. Suddenly, Hestel appears and flatters the judge, calling him the brilliant artist Jan Walker. A flashback shows Jen Walker seeing Hestel in the Crown Prince's palace. The girl introduces herself as Hestel with a sly smile, intriguing the mysterious judge. Jen Walker notes that he knows Hestel's name and asks if she came because of the competition. Hestel explains that she came to pick up her painting, which was supposed to be returned if it didn't pass the selection. The judge logically notes that since the painting was not returned, it means she has passed, and asks about the real reason for her visit. The girl, with feigned modesty, says that she could not believe that she could pass the selection. Jen Walker understands that it was Hestel who painted that picture, but she does not feel any sacred power from it. The cunning girl, smiling, asks the judge to pretend that he did not hear anything, as if he had accidentally given himself away. The intrigued Duke asks Hestel to tell him more about this mysterious painting. In the Crown Prince's chambers, the girl reports that Duke Charon is the famous Jen Walker, and she was able to get closer to him. Hestel boasts that by claiming authorship, she has taken complete control of the Duke. The Crown Prince praises the girl for her good work and orders her not to make any mistakes in the future. Hestel, with a devilish smile, promises to fulfill all of His Highness's wishes. At the Birsov estate, Liarte is shocked to learn that her painting has won the grand prize in a competition. Merlin enthusiastically confirms the news, saying that she was confident of the lady's victory. The heroine understands that winning the competition definitely made her work stand out from all the others. Liarte is confident that now that word has spread about a man capable of writing sacred art, Duke Charon will contact her himself. The maid asks what the mistress plans to do with the winnings, which surprises Liarte. Merlin explains that the prize money was enclosed in an envelope with a letter that arrived today. The maid offers Liarte to buy something she has long wanted, but the girl replies that she has no specific desires. The maid understands with a smile that the mistress already has everything, because the owners always bring her everything she needs. Liarte announces with a smile that she has figured out what she wants, and asks Merlin to go shopping with her. The maid happily agrees, but Liarte stops her, not wanting to warn the knights. The heroine suggests that they go together to keep their little outing a secret. The girl, with a mysterious smile, asks the maid not to tell anyone about their secret expedition. Leaving the estate, Liarte realizes that this is their first such walk together. The heroine is surprised to notice how different the people outside the estate are. The peace and happiness of ordinary people fills Liarte with the desire to protect their smiles. In a handkerchief shop, girls admire the beauty and elegance of the goods. Liarte enthusiastically selects a variety of scarves and jewelry, and the seller happily packs the purchases. The girl acquires a variety of elegant jewelry, each of which shines in its own box. As he leaves the store, Merlin notices that the lady has bought quite a lot of things. Liarte explains that these are gifts for the people of Burs, as she has many people to thank. The heroine hands the box to the maid, saying that this is a gift personally for her. The young lady wants her first earnings to go towards gifts and turn into something meaningful. A touched Merlin thanks the lady, admitting that this is the first time she has received such a gift. The maid accepts the gift with delight, assuring her that everything the lady gives is wonderful. Suddenly, Liarte freezes in place, which causes Merlin to be confused. The girl feels a faint but familiar water energy emanating from someone nearby. The heroine notices Lian, who openly displays himself, and realizes that it is he. Having calmed the worried maid, Liarte, with cold determination, suggests that they go home. The mysterious stranger silently watches the departing couple. The young man clutches his cloak in rage, deeply offended. The disappointed guy realizes that his hopes for a meeting were not fulfilled. The dark-haired hero grins villainously, already making plans for the future. The beautiful girl Riri looks around the sumptuous feast in surprise. The red-eyed man confirms with a smile that today is a reason to celebrate. Three men in the living room solemnly congratulate the heroine on her victory. An embarrassed Riri thanks them for the congratulations, happy to be back home. The girl asks a maid named Merlin to bring prepared surprises. 3 identical boxes with gifts for everyone appear on the elegant table. The 2 men look at the gifts in bewilderment, not believing their eyes. The heroine proudly explains that she bought the gifts with the first money she earned. The white-haired man admires the red brooch, calling it the best gift in recent years. The head of the family is touched and promises to always wear the precious brooch. The final box opens, revealing a sparkling blue brooch. Riri looks at the young man with hope, wanting to give him something special. The young man looks at Riri with adoration, confirming that he really likes the gift. The fair-haired guy gently presses himself against the heroine, finding deep meaning in the gift. The father and grandfather watch this scene with indignation, calling the boy a cunning fox. The men return the gift to the surprised Riri, not wanting to remain in debt. The heroine is given a magic pendant that will help her find her in any trouble. Riri tries to activate the amulet by concentrating her magical energy into it. Suddenly, a mysterious sound is heard that only a select few can hear. The fair-haired guy reveals the secret of sound, explaining its amazing properties. The girl is amazed by the amulet's capabilities, but hopes that she will not have to use it. Riri accepts the precious and important gift with sincere gratitude. The white-haired man talks with childish delight about the luxurious preparations for the ceremony. This man admits that he is even more excited about the upcoming event than the heroine herself. Memories of the past make Riri realize for the first time what a father's love is. The heroine declares with complete confidence that she sincerely appreciates the Duke's care. The man smiles with relief, thanking the girl for her understanding. The head of the family begins a conversation about traditions, asking Riri about her knowledge of the ceremony. A gruesome detail of the ritual is revealed, where the head of the family must sprinkle Riri with his blood. The girl tries to understand what benefit this frightening tradition will bring. The young man reminds the heroine that tomorrow is the long-awaited and exciting day. The heroine cannot believe that fate has brought her to celebrate her coming of age in this house. The girl thanks everyone for their care and warm attitude, which seems like a real miracle. Riri also thanks Michael for helping her prepare for the dance. Michael's gaze suddenly becomes intense and full of hidden meaning. Suddenly, Riri admits that she already has someone else in mind. Riri tells Michael that he hardly knows her chosen one. The self-confident young man declares that he knows absolutely everyone in Liarte's circle. The girl notices a strange change in mood and worries about Michael. The guy with a forced smile tries to hide his true state. Michael suddenly and tenderly kisses the hand of the confused heroine. A young man looks thoughtfully at his palm after a passionate kiss. Embarrassed Riri can't hide her blush from such a daring act. The heroine feels that her companion is clearly very upset about something. That night, the girl has a disturbing dream about a mysterious stranger and Liart. The red-eyed man from the dream makes a frightening promise not to touch Liarte. The maid wakes Riri in a sunlit bedroom, reminding her of the important day. Merlin offers to help the hostess prepare for the upcoming ceremony. The girl realizes with relief that everything she saw was just a nightmare. A strange feeling after sleep does not leave Riri, making her heart beat faster. The heroine, in a luxurious blue dress, is ready for the ceremony with Michael. 2 men in formal suits proudly greet the beautiful Riri. Michael showers the girl with compliments, comparing her to a heavenly creature. A worried Riri can't get her thoughts together because of the nightmare. The young man promises to be there and reminds about using the protective medallion. The whole family gathers together and solemnly heads to the coming-of-age ceremony. The arrival of Lady Liarte of the Beers family is solemnly announced. The guests whisper in admiration, amazed by the beauty of the young Lady Elheim. The long-awaited coming-of-age ceremony begins on the shining balcony. The white-haired man asks the heroine to keep everything she saw during the ritual a secret. Blood drips from the sharp cross, preparing to seal the ancient and terrifying rite. A sudden vision takes Liarte on a romantic night with a mysterious stranger. The man from the vision admits with desperate tenderness that he cannot live without the girl. Returning to reality, Liarte stands next to Michael, stunned by the incomprehensible vision. The girl realizes that the feeling from the vision is the very love that Michael spoke about. Liarte is overwhelmed with emotion, bringing tears to his eyes from the sudden revelation. Watching from the sidelines, two men remark on how happy the young lady looks. The dark-haired boy looks at Liarte with hatred, swearing that he won't be able to escape from him. The heroine is shocked to see a man at the party whom she did not expect to meet at all. The uninvited guest, with a smug grin, declares that he has come by invitation. Michael sarcastically suggests that the invitation was sent to Elheim by mistake. The dark-haired young man abruptly interrupts Michael, claiming that he is speaking to his sister. Michael mockingly questions the relationship, reminding us of the broken ties. The two rivals lock eyes, the air between them crackling with tension. Michael takes Liarte away, saying that they urgently need to talk about something. The heroine, with icy calm, decides that it is time to deal with this past once and for all. The dark-haired young man reproachfully says that Liarte looks happy, as if she has forgotten about the past. The heroine boldly confirms that she is now happy because the Burses are her real family. The guy, with an evil grin, questions her place in the new family. The young man grabs the girl in a rage, shouting that she will never become one of the Births. The former brother menacingly reminds that Liarte is actually one of the Elheim. A magical aura flares up around the heroine, and the girl declares that this is something he should remember. Liarte, with icy determination, swears that he will never return to the cursed Elheim. The young man realizes with horror that the heroine's abilities have become incredibly strong. The cunning guy decides to return Liarte at any cost in order to seize her power. The girl asks with pain whether the young man ever considered her a sister. Michael interrupts the conversation imperiously, ordering the insolent man to leave Liarte alone. A fair-haired young man with a charming smile invites the heroine to dance. In the whirlwind of the dance, Michael worries about the girl's condition, but Liarte feels relieved. The young man suddenly admits that he secretly wished for the arrival of guests from Elheim. The heroine sadly realizes that her past family will not change even after seeing her happiness. Liarte decides to no longer think about those who absolutely do not deserve it. Michael gently asks the girl to think only about herself from now on, because she is the most important thing. The image of the man from the vision and his passionate confession flashes again in the heroine's memory. Liarte, shocked, tells Michael that she saw him in her mysterious vision. Michael mysteriously promises that over time, the girl will find the answers to all the questions herself. Suddenly, the crown prince appears at the ball, apologizing for being late. The distinguished guest congratulates Lady Elheim and brazenly invites her to dance. The heroine is stunned by the unexpected offer from such an important person. The prince, with a sly grin, admits that he had been watching the girl for a very long time. Liarte understands the falsity of these words and politely but firmly refuses. The girl boldly declares that she will not dance with a threat to the Beers family. Michael stands up for Liarte, politely but firmly reminding the prince of his duty. Michael's gaze turns icy, and the young man reminds him that the Beerses do not forget their debts. The prince accepts the challenge with a false smile, plotting a counterattack. The arrogant guest leaves, thinking over a cunning plan to brainwash a certain Hestel. The prince is looking for Duke Charon, but his assistant Hestel doesn't know where he is. Hestel inwardly despises his master, but assures the prince of the Duke's imminent arrival. The irritated prince scolds Hestel, ordering him not to make mistakes regarding Lady Elheim. The cunning girl meekly agrees, already hatching a plan to get closer to Liarte. Hestel watches Liarte, admitting that she makes a much stronger impression than expected. The villain understands that she needs to catch the moment when Liarte is left alone, but this seems impossible. Hestel is shocked by the rumors of how much the Bierces value Lady Elheim. The girl recalls that the gloomy Birs mansion was transformed just for Liarte. The dark-haired youth mysteriously notes that Hestel is somewhat similar to Liarte. This thought ignites a fierce envy in Hestel, because despite their outward similarities, their fates are so unfairly different. Envious thoughts of similarity give birth in Hestel to a thirst for love and power of the Birs family. The dark-haired girl with a wicked grin decides that she deserves it much more. Hestel approaches the heroine, introduces herself, and offers wine with a fake smile. Liarte politely declines the treat, looking at his new acquaintance with distrust. The cunning Hestel insists and deliberately knocks over the glass right onto Liarte's dress. The heroine instantly uses magic, stopping the flow of wine in the air. Guests watch in amazement as the legendary power of the water element manifests itself. The villain is shocked because her plan failed due to Liarte's unexpected abilities. Hestel immediately changes tactics, admiring the heroine's strength and offering his gratitude. The sudden change in tone from official to friendly arouses Liarte's serious suspicions. The girl coldly rejects any attempts at intimacy, advising her to simply enjoy the holiday. Hestel struggles to hide her annoyance, realizing that Liarte isn't giving her a single chance. The Birs family is interested in the stranger, but Liarte insists that he is seeing this girl for the first time. Meanwhile, the crowd begins to recognize the mysterious Lady Hestel. Whispers about Hestel's incredible talent for painting spread throughout the room. The rumors are confirmed, and more guests recognize the girl as the famous artist. One of the guests approaches Hestel and admires her competition entry, Peace. Liarte suddenly turns to the artist, stating that she has an important question. Hestel, with feigned politeness, asks what has Lady Elheim so upset. The heroine looks straight into his eyes and asks if Hestel really wrote The World in Red. Hestel, with a smug grin, is surprised at how quickly the rumors spread. The cunning artist proudly confirms that it was she who created this painting. The delighted guests shower the imposter with compliments, calling her work brilliant. Liarte interrupts this farce by directly asking Hestel about the meaning behind the painting. Taken by surprise, Hestel hesitantly declares that she has drawn her favorite son. The villain's inner voice doubts, because her own impression of the painting was different. The artist is seething with rage, accusing Liarte of implying her incompetence. The heroine calmly and confidently throws the accusation in his face, declaring that this is not her painting. Hestel is astonished by such impudence, but internally wonders about the source of Liarte's confidence. Liarte finally reveals the shocking truth, declaring himself the true author of the masterpiece. Hestel recalls the prince's words, insisting that the real author had been dead for a long time. The imposter challenges, demanding proof, confident of her impunity. The white-haired man comes to Liarte's defense, mentioning the letter with the prize money. Hestel is stunned because no one told her about the prize money. Michael deals a crushing blow by revealing the secret of the divine paint from the House of Birs. The Birs family surrounds Liarte, explaining that only an awakened girl could use this paint. The memory of the shining paint confirms the words about its divine power. All doubts are dispelled, and it becomes clear that the real author is Lady Elheim. Liarte corrects the imposter, saying that the painting depicts the world, not the sun. The crowd of guests turns against Hestel, accusing the shameless liar of deception. The exposed Hestel tries to escape from the ball in panic. A desperate artist begs a mysterious figure to confirm her right to the painting. An image of the real Jane Walker from the past comes to mind. Hestel realizes with horror that Karen has deliberately approached her on the Crown Prince's orders. The masked man coldly accuses the imposter of blatant lies. The memory takes us back to the moment of their acquaintance, when Duke Zenhart Karen introduces himself to Liarte. The heroine thanks the Duke and asks to spare some time after the holiday. The mysterious Duke announces that he has an important request for the girl. Humiliated in front of all the aristocrats, Hestel is seething with rage and a thirst for revenge. The girl decides to immediately run to the Crown Prince to begin the brainwashing plan. The artist hopes that the prince is personally interested in her. With feigned innocence, Hestel asks if it was anxiety that brought the prince to come. The imposter immediately begins to slander Liarte, accusing the girl of orchestrating a deception. The desperate girl begs the prince to believe her false words. The prince, with an icy gaze, questions her words, asking directly about the lie. Caught in a lie, Hestel becomes confused, and the prince declares that he has no time for her. The high-ranking guest coldly inquires as to the current location of Liarte's painting. The artist falsely claims that she doesn't know, realizing that the crown prince must not be involved. The prince threatens to continue the conversation in the bursar's dungeon. The mention of the dungeon brings real horror to the imposter. The prince coldly asks if the imposter hoped to leave after stealing the bursar's property. Liarte stands waiting as a new dance tune begins in the hall. Michael approaches the girl with a warm smile, apologizing for the long wait. The young man hugs Liarte, leading him away from unnecessary conversations back into the warm hall. Hestel burns with envy, not understanding how she is worse than the adored Liarte. A mad fire flares in the artist's eyes, because now the girl can use her abilities. Michael and Liarte are alone on the sofa, and the heroine assures that she is having a lot of fun. The boy is worried about Liarte's feelings, and vows to find and return the stolen painting. The heroine calmly notes that in the end, justice prevailed. Liarte, with a beaming smile, admits that Michael's anger has freed her from her own discontent. The young man thoughtfully asks Liarte about the meaning of the title of the painting, Peace. Memories take the girl back to the day when Michael noticed her, alone and forgotten by everyone. The heroine reflects on how the young man was the first to understand her hidden pain. In her memories, Liarte asks how the man who cares for her so sincerely sees her. The girl realizes that Michael sees something more in her than others saw. Happy memories of his new family show how Liarte's world has changed for the better. Michael looks at Liarte tenderly and squeezes her hand tightly. The boy begins his story of deep despair, his grandfather's madness and loss of sight. The memoirs show how the imperial court and the Elheims put pressure on the family from all sides. A dark past reveals how the Bierce family dealt brutally with those they disliked. Michael recalls a desperate trip to Elheim with no hope of lifting the nearly impossible curse. The young man faced a terrible choice: burn from his own power or die at the hands of his father. In this pitch-black world of despair, the saving figure of Liarte suddenly appeared. Michael admits that the girl became a blue light that dispelled the darkness in his heart. Even being blind, the boy felt an inexplicable and strong connection with the heroine. The young man realized that his blindness no longer mattered as long as Liarte was nearby. The moment Michael saw the girl, his dark world changed forever. The young man, in a breaking voice, calls Liarte his only salvation. Michael gently touches the heroine's cheek and finally utters the long-awaited declaration of love. The guy always wanted to talk about his feelings and his readiness to do anything for Liarte. Michael doesn't demand an answer. He just needed the girl to know the truth. Liarte realizes that now is the perfect time to reciprocate Michael's feelings. The heroine doubts, not wanting to respond with uncertainty to such a sincere confession. The girl admits that she really likes Michael, and meeting him is the greatest success in her life. Liarte asks for a little time to respond to the feelings with full confidence. The heroine, with a gentle smile, asks to wait, promising that it won't take long. Michael looks at the girl with adoration and vows to wait as long as it takes. The young man drops to one knee, asking for only one thing: not to let other men near him. The guy says with pain in his voice that he won't survive if Liarte gets close to someone else. The heroine assures that there are no other men because Michael alone makes her head spin. Michael and Liarte seal their promise with a tender oath on their little fingers. The heroine confidently believes that the day of her full declaration of love is already very close. The prince is furious when he realizes that the painting belongs to Liarte, and his plan is ruined by Hestel. A high-ranking guest meets with Duke Charon to put his devious plan into action. The prince is perplexed by the refusal, because he warned about the consequences of any deception. The masked duke reveals the prince's lie about the fire in the palace and the authorship of the painting. The prince mockingly asks how a mere duke can harm the crown prince of the empire. The high-ranking guest confidently declares that he has many ways to attract Liarte. Duke Charon angrily warns that anyone who tries to deceive him will receive no mercy. The prince realizes that even without the duke's help, he has other risky ways to reach Liarte. Meanwhile, Hestel, with a mad smile, confirms his readiness for action. Under the full moon, the artist declares that she is fully prepared to carry out her sinister plan. Liarte and her family return to the hall, where they are greeted with questions about their absence. Suddenly, a deafening explosion is heard, sowing panic among the ball guests. This explosion is painfully reminiscent of the previous one, and suspicion again falls on the crown prince. The white-haired man urges everyone to remain calm and promises to sort things out immediately. Michael asks Liarte to wait, promising to quickly check everything and return. The heroine agrees to stay, taking on the responsibility of protecting people. Michael's gaze is full of love, and the young man admits that it is precisely for strength that he loves Liarte. The guy trusts the girl, making sure that the protective pendant is with her. Michael asks Liarte not to trust anyone but his family and promises to come to his aid. The frightened guests discuss the explosion in panic, fearing for their lives. Liarte uses her water magic to calm and protect everyone present. The heroine asks a man named Andre to check if there are any victims on other floors. The guests admire the girl's incredible strength, thanks to which everything quickly returned to normal. Suddenly, a mysterious figure in black appears. It is the Black Knight of the Order of Bursa. Liarte is horrified to learn that there are victims of the collapse on the ground floor. The mysterious knight says that they cannot do without Liarte's help. The worried girl immediately asks where the wounded man is. The knight suddenly falls unconscious at the heroine's feet, revealing a treacherous trap. Liarte realizes that this happened because the brainwashing technique wore off. The heroine's gaze falls on Lady Hestel, standing nearby in the shadows. The girl suspiciously asks the artist why she was here. Liarte realizes with horror that it was Hestel who caused all this commotion. The villain, with a cheeky grin, confirms her involvement in the explosion. Under the light of the full moon, Hestel reveals his true, sinister plan. The artist, with a wild look, declares her intention to subjugate Liarte's mind. The heroine, in a panic, tries to use the pendant to call for help, but the forces do not respond. Hestel mockingly informs that she is not and will never be Lady Liarte. The real puppeteer comes out of the shadows, and Hestel declares the Crown Prince the heroine's new master. The heroine screams in pain, losing consciousness under the influence of dark magic. The Crown Prince catches the weakened Liarte in his arms. The villain, with a sly grin, advises Lady Elheim to relax. The prince whispers that after awakening, the girl will become his obedient doll. Hestel asks with sly interest, who will now take Liarte's place? The artist, with a crazy smile, assures that she will take care of everything. Despite the spell, Liarte's water magic continues to protect her body. Meanwhile, the Burse family searches the woods for any traces of the incident. The Black Knight reports that he has discovered the same ancient symbol as before. The discovery of a rune-inscribed stone finally confirms the Crown Prince's involvement. The white-haired man is surprised to learn that there is no trace of fire left after the explosion. Michael realizes with horror that all this commotion was just a trap. The mysterious sound of the pendant pierces the silence, and Michael screams Liarte's name in panic. Water magic envelops Liarte's body while the girl is unconscious. The prince is perplexed because the heroine's water power is still active. Hestel hesitantly confirms that the spell was cast accurately. It seems that Liarte's instincts continue to protect her even in her unconscious state. The artist assures the prince that after awakening, he will be able to control the power of Liarte. The prince decides to return to the palace before the Bierce family discovers them. Michael screams in rage, not understanding what the kidnappers are doing. Dark magic attacks the prince, as if he himself is begging for death. Michael coldly declares that he is merely carrying out the will of the Crown Prince. The prince is suffocated, captured by the tentacles of darkness, and cannot believe what is happening. Michael, shrouded in dark energy, holds the sleeping Liarte tightly. Hestel threatens in panic, reminding him of the spell cast on Liarte. The artist freezes in horror, not believing Michael's insolent answer. The young man, with icy calm, offers the villain a try, if she dares. Hestel tries to use her power, but the dark energy of the Burses attacks her. The girl screams in pain, not understanding what unknown force has fallen upon her. Michael ominously reminds that no one has ever walked away alive after witnessing the true power of the Burses. Dark magic envelops both villains, draining them of their strength and hope. Michael loses control, and his own power begins to consume him. The white-haired man screams in horror, begging Michael to stop. The elder Burse urges the young man not to lose control and to stop the force immediately. Michael comes to his senses, looking tenderly at the sleeping Liarte in his arms. The prince screams in rage, not believing that they could treat him like this. The white-haired man mockingly notes that the prince still doesn't understand anything. The elder Burse pronounces the death sentence, declaring that none of them will leave here alive. Liarte comes to his senses in a strange body of water, not understanding where he is. The heroine finds herself inside her subconscious, where she meets the mysterious Jurgen. The blue-haired Spirit King appears before Liarte, calling the girl's name. The heroine recognizes the young man as the Spirit King, who has regained his lost powers. The Spirit King recalls how he boasted to Liarte about his future power. The blue-haired guy notices with a smile that the girl herself has changed a lot. Liarte looks at peace, having found a real family and true happiness. The girl's memories show happy moments with loved ones. The young woman happily realizes that she has finally found her happiness. The Spirit King sincerely hopes that the heroine will be able to preserve this fragile happiness. The girl doesn't understand the warning, and the guy reminds her of the sealed Dark King. Sinister spirits appear as a bad omen, warning of danger. The blue-haired boy vows to always protect his girlfriend's happiness. Liart wakes up in his bed with a worried Michael sitting next to him. The heroine tries to calm the young man, assuring him that everything is fine. The girl notices the guy's strange state and anxiously asks about his well-being. Michael looks at his beloved with tears in his eyes, saying her name. The flashback shows the young man holding the unconscious heroine in his arms, afraid of losing her. The guy blames himself for not being able to be there for the girl at the most important moment. The young man kneels and begs Liarte for forgiveness for his failure to protect. The heroine recalls how calm Michael was, even in the face of mortal threat. Now this strong guy is deeply afraid of losing his beloved again. Liarte finally realizes that Michael's feelings are true love. The heroine hugs the guy, claiming that it was his appearance that saved her life. The girl thanks Michael for saving her and asks him not to worry anymore. The young man hugs his beloved tightly, overjoyed at her return. Liarte also thanks for the necklace, which gave him strength in times of danger. The white-haired man reports that the Crown Prince and Hestel are now locked in the dungeon. In the dungeon, this man mockingly asks the prisoner if he likes the cell. The enraged Crown Prince screams in rage, demanding to be untied immediately. The visitor reminds the prisoner of his warning not to touch Liarte. The heir to the throne cannot believe such insolence towards his person. The silver-haired youth offers to see how much the Empire values the prince. The man coldly informs the captive that he will not see a quick and easy death. The Crown Prince is needed alive for an important deal with the Imperial Palace and the Duchy. The prisoner, completely perplexed, tries to understand what kind of deal is being discussed. Liart firmly declares that he does not feel an ounce of pity for his tormentor. The girl is already thinking about how to use the Crown Prince's capture for the good of the duchy. The white-haired man admires the heroine's strength of spirit, who immediately thinks about profit. The kidnapper sarcastically hopes that the captive will be highly valued for a good deal. Hestel, in the next cell, begs for mercy, placing all the blame on the Crown Prince. The man remarks with a cold smile how uncomfortable Lady Hestel must be in the dungeon. Frightened to death, Hestel desperately begs for mercy, asking to be let go. The white-haired man coldly orders his assistant to kill the captive. A maid named Merlin accepts the cruel order without hesitation. Hestel freezes in silent horror, realizing her terrible fate. Liarte wakes up on the second day of recovery, feeling much better. Michael is still worried, recalling the doctor's warning about side effects. The young man jokingly points to the fox spirit, who also demands rest for the girl. The girl is touched by such excessive care from everyone around her. The heroine recalls how she came to her senses for a moment in the midst of events. Liarte recalls that the power Michael used did not feel like the power of death at all. The heroine directly asks the young man about the true strength of the Burse family. The young man realizes that he can no longer hide the truth from his beloved. Michael invites the girl to go and see everything with her own eyes. The boy takes Liarte to the site of an old fire, where, according to legend, the family's power resided. Michael concentrates dark energy in his hand, urging the girl to watch carefully. The young man demonstrates dark matter, calling it the true power of the births. Time suddenly speeds up around the heroes, rushing past. The heroine, completely confused, asks what just happened. The guy explains that he showed the girl the future of this very place. Michael finally reveals the main secret. The power of the Burses is not death, but the future itself. Shocked, Liarte cannot believe that a person has been given the power to control time. Michael admits that the Beers family does not have complete control over time. The young man explains that power only allows one to glimpse what is predestined. The guy warns that control over the power requires enormous concentration. Otherwise, everything will collapse. Loss of control over the gift distorts space and threatens not only the bearer, but the entire world. This distorted forest, as the young man admits, was left behind by his childhood loss of control over his power. It was for this reason that the Burse family was forced to keep their ability a closely guarded secret. The hero confesses his fear that Liarte will begin to fear her lover after learning the truth. The girl suddenly realizes that the vision at the ceremony was also a glimpse into the future. Michael confirms that the power of his lineage allowed the girl to glimpse what awaits her. Liarte realizes with trepidation that all the feelings and words experienced in the vision will one day come true. The young man excitedly asks Liarte to tell him exactly what she saw. The young man asks with bated breath if he was next to the girl in that vision. The heroine replies that in that future they were together, just like now. A happy girl cuddles up to her boyfriend, promises to be with her beloved always. Looking into Michael's eyes, the heroine admits that only now has she truly understood her feelings. With a beaming smile and tears in her eyes, Liarte confesses that she loves him very much. Deeply moved, Michael whispers the name of his beloved, confessing how long he has been waiting for these words. The young man calls the girl his savior, who burst into his life full of pain. Without Liarte, as the young man whispers, there is simply no future for him. The head of the Beers family solicitously asks Liarte if she likes the food at the table. The white-haired young man offers the girl to try another dish, reproaching Michael for his lack of appetite. The young man lovingly feeds the heroine with a fork, inviting her to open her mouth. The father and brother watch the couple in love with obvious irritation, calling Michael a sly fox. The flashback shows Liarte insisting on sharing a meal with Michael. The white-haired man reluctantly gives in, allowing the girl to do as she pleases. The silver-haired youth reports that solid evidence is needed to negotiate with the palace. The guy notes with suspicion that someone has very carefully covered up all traces of the recent incident. A mysterious guest in a hood and mask thanks for the meeting after difficult events. The heroine asks the guest the purpose of his visit, mentioning her desire to meet. The masked man confirms that he came to request the restoration of his mother's ancient icon. The memory shows the guest's late mother, who was never able to complete the restoration. The guest explains the difficulty of the task, for which for many years he could not find anyone with the necessary strength. The mysterious stranger claims that only Liarte has the unique power for this job. The white-haired man understands that the task must be incredibly difficult if the search took so long. The brother firmly states that Liarte's well-being comes first, and it is too early to ask for such a thing. The guest understands the refusal, recognizing that he has no right to ask for free. As payment, the man offers a folder containing incriminating evidence against the crown prince and the entire imperial family. The silver-haired youth is in shock, as he thought all the evidence against the prince had been destroyed. A mysterious guest reveals the main secret. The crown prince has been using forbidden ancient magic all this time. The flashback shows how the crown prince used the remains of the dead for assassinations and arson. The mysterious guest continues his story, asking about the northern city of Searun. The ominous appearance of the ruined city recalls the mysterious epidemic that destroyed it. The stranger shocks everyone with the news that it was then that Lord Michael lost his sight. The visitor reveals the terrible truth. The crown prince sacrificed an entire city to fulfill a curse. Liarte realizes with horror that the curse she lifted was created at the cost of Searun's death. The masked man insists that all the evidence of these monstrous crimes is in the documents. The guest is ready to give up incriminating evidence, even in case of refusal, showing the seriousness of his intentions. Liarte, full of determination, firmly declares her agreement to restore the icon. Michael and the head of the family look at the girl with concern, not believing her decision. The father of the family asks the heroine not to take on such a burden because her well-being is most important. The young woman replies with a smile that she would be only too happy to be of use to the Beers family. The head of the family, seeing the girl's unbending will, is forced to give in to her request. The guest thanks Liarte and announces the alliance of the Duchy of Charon with the House of Beers. The action moves to the imperial palace, shrouded in night darkness and anxiety. The agitated empress bursts into the chambers, scolding someone for being too calm. The ruler shows a letter with a seal, insisting on immediate action. The empress reports that the letter from the Beerses contains incriminating evidence against her son and the truth about the destruction of Searun. The emperor coldly inquires about Lucas's whereabouts, to which he receives the answer that he is imprisoned in a dungeon. The ruler reads the Beerses' demand for independence in exchange for the prince. Realizing the inevitability of such an outcome, the empress categorically declares that under no circumstances should one agree to their conditions. The emperor admits that there is now no way to stop the Beersovs, whose influence has only grown stronger. The ruler replies with a smile that the imperial family has one more trump card. The empress, with a sly smile, suggests using Elheim, considering the moment ideal. The ruler doubts this plan, believing that the Elheim have long since lost their abilities. The crowned head reveals her secret, mentioning the mysterious black dust. The empress's plan is to create an illusion of power using the powder to announce Elheim's might. The Emperor gloomily notes that with each dose, the dependence on the powder will only grow. The woman mockingly asks the ruler if he is really so worried about someone's fate. After a brief silence, the golden-haired monarch reluctantly agrees to go along with her plan. The emperor orders a maid to convey the reply from the imperial palace to the Burs family. The ruler firmly declares that he will not allow Bursum to become a separate kingdom. The monarch decides to renounce all rights to the crown prince as proposed. The empress adds an order to immediately send a letter to Elheim, summoning him to the palace. The crowned head also reminds them to prepare black powder for their arrival. The white-haired brother reads the reply from the palace, noting that the prince's abdication was expected. The silver-haired youth had no doubt that these people would do anything for power. The young man sneers contemptuously, amazed at the willingness to sacrifice his own child. The guy calls his faithful assistant, whose name is Aleph. The white-haired man coldly orders them to get rid of the prisoner in the dungeon, who is no longer of use to them. The white-haired brother notes with a grin how simply and unexpectedly everything ended. Lucas reflects that, compared to the beginning, the ending of this story turned out to be insignificant. The silver-haired youth lazily inquires whether Duke Charon has arrived yet. The assistant reports that the guest arrived an hour ago and is now talking with Liarte. In the living room, the heroine is surprised that the mysterious visitor personally brought the painting. The girl politely asks the guest to tell a little more about this ancient icon. The mysterious masked man readily agrees to the young lady's request. The Duke admits that he himself does not know all the details, only that this was his mother's last wish. Liardi understands that the reverent attitude towards an icon is connected not with its value, but with the truth contained within it. The girl asks permission to look at the relic, and the Duke kindly agrees. The painting turns out to be damaged much more than the heroine could have imagined. A young woman notices strange traces of deliberate corrections on the canvas. Liarde comes to the conclusion that someone was desperately trying to hide the truth of this icon. The heroine warns that recovery will take a long time, but promises to do everything possible. The flashback shows the girl talking about her joy in being of service to the Bursi family. The Duke asks if the young lady is doing all this only for the Burses. With a warm smile, Liarte admits that it is also important to her to heal the soul of Duke Terran himself. The girl explains her duty to fulfill her mother's wish so that the Duke can find peace. The thoughts describe a heroine who is considered weak and fragile, ready to fade away at any moment. In fact, this girl turns out to be stronger and kinder than many others. The heroine confidently says that his mother's lifelong dream will soon come true. At the palace, a servant invites the Elheim family to come in, informing them that His Majesty is already waiting. The courtier announces the arrival of the Elheim family, holding a clenched fist behind his back. The Empress, fan in hand, greets the guests, addressing the Duke of Elheim. The head of the Elheim family and his sons respectfully greet Her Majesty the Empress. The old Duke reproachfully notes that the rumors about him are very different from reality. The thoughts show Michael doubting Elheim's ability to resist Bursum without power. The Empress asks with disdain whether the Empire needs the Elheim family without its former power. The ruler reassures the guests, informing them that she has personally prepared something special for them. A servant brings in a tray with small vials filled with a glowing purple liquid. A crowned head with a sly smile presents a potion that restores abilities. All members of the Elheim family look at the bottles offered to them with disbelief and surprise. The head of the family looks at the potion with doubt, not daring to drink it and believe in a miracle. Realizing that there is no other choice, the old Duke resolutely drinks the contents of the bottle. The man feels how his long-lost magical power is returning to him. The Empress promises to give more potions if Elheim follows her orders, as the effect is temporary. The Duke bitterly realizes the humiliation of his position before the imperial family. One of the sons mentions rumors of a spirit king who can reverse time. Another son adds that he could not find the place, as if it was protected by a barrier. The young man with a sly grin suggests trying to use Ninian. He wonders how far he will have to turn back time to fix everything. The boy thinks about the day when Liarte passed out after drinking something instead of him. Memories take the young man back to the distant past, to their shared, carefree childhood. The man says with determination that the main goal is to return Ninian at any cost. The maid reports to Princess Ninian about the arrival of young Master Lian. Young Master Lian greets Her Highness with a smile after a long separation. The golden-haired princess embraces the young man, and Lian explains her visit as a challenge from the Empress. The girl, with concern in her voice, asks what the young man talked about with the empress. The boy shows the princess a small bottle of glowing liquid, received from the ruler. Ninian looks at the potion in horror, realizing that her father has already taken it and the strength has returned. The princess warns of the danger, revealing that the potion is made from the Spirit King's powder. With pain in her heart, the girl recalls the death of her brother at the hands of the Bursa family, fearing the loss of Lian as well. The young man insists on the need for force so that the Elheim family does not lose its influence. In despair, the princess embraces the young man, screaming that she cannot allow him to be lost. Lian suggests asking the Spirit King for help and asks Ninian to arrange a meeting. The guy convinces the crying girl that only she, Her Highness, is capable of this. The memory shows the mother's instruction that love is the main enemy that must be abandoned first. The girl with determination thinks that she is ready for anything, even if love plunges a knife into her heart. The princess looks up with a determined look and asks Mr. Lian to follow her. At the Birsov estate, someone notices that Liarte has been very busy lately. The girl is completely absorbed in her work on the sacred fresco commissioned by Duke Sharon. Michael thinks with concern about how hard it is for the heroine now because of the intrigues. Noticing the girl's fatigue, Michael thoughtfully suggests that she take a little break from work. The guy tenderly offers his comforting embrace to the tired girl. The heroine happily accepts the offer and tenderly embraces the young man. The young man passionately desires to take for himself everything that belongs to his beloved. The confused girl realizes that her heart is pounding because of her love for Michael. The heroine tries to hide her embarrassment, explaining her increased heartbeat by the touch. The embarrassed young man notices with a smile that her words make his heart beat even faster. The guy tenderly hugs the girl, whispering a long-awaited declaration of love. The young man leaves a tender kiss on the cheek of his beloved. A fox spirit suddenly appears and interrupts the couple's romantic moment with a cough. The laughing girl dreams that this moment of happiness will last forever. The hooded youth turns out to be the very same king of dark spirits with a completely different aura. The evil queen of dark spirits greets the young man with a smirk, calling him a fake. The young man calmly asks the dark entity what it wants from him. The mistress of darkness declares that she needs to borrow the body of a young man. The spirit woman explains that the fake body is unable to use power without outside help. The dark entity promises to help the young man gain the strength to regain the power of the Water Spirit King. In exchange for her help, when she becomes a god, the queen will fulfill any request the boy makes. The young man voices his only wish, to turn back time, and the Queen of Darkness promises to help. The guy asks the dark entity with determination what exactly he needs to do for this. The Queen of Spirits declares the young man to be her vessel, ordering him to obey her will. A powerful entity imbues a young man with part of its dark power. Having received new power, the boy receives his first order, to kill the King of Water Spirits. The blue-haired king greets the uninvited guest, contemptuously calling him a fake. A cloaked youth greets the ruler of the water spirits with a grin after a long separation. The angry spirit king angrily asks why the hell the fake came here. The dark-haired guy is irritated that all the perfumes are so eager to call him a fake. The youth attacks the king with dark magic, declaring that complacency is over. The blue-haired ruler is shocked to recognize the attacker as the king of dark spirits. Caught in dark bonds, the Spirit King does not understand how the young man could gain such power. The water ruler feels his own power fading, consumed by the darkness. At the last moment, the Spirit King unleashes a powerful stream of water, throwing back the attacker. The dark-haired boy looks at the empty pedestal with annoyance, realizing that the victim has escaped. Feeling cracks in the seal, the young man decides to pursue the fugitive by following the trail of water. Michael notices how cold it gets in the evenings as he walks next to Liarte. The young man gently hugs the girl from behind to warm her in his arms. The guy asks his beloved with a smile if she feels warmer now. Liarte confirms with a flirtatious smile that it is indeed very warm in the arms of her beloved. She recalls how after that day, her relationship with Michael became much closer. The couple in love stopped being shy about their feelings, enjoying every moment. The heroine suddenly feels her own strength wavering under the onslaught of water energy. Suddenly, a weakened Spirit King appears in front of the girl, falling straight into her arms. Liarte looks at the blue-haired boy in complete shock, not understanding how he ended up here. The girl notices with horror strange wounds on the body of the spirit, which looks the same as when they first met. The Spirit King tells Liarte the terrible news of her twin brother's contract with the King of Darkness. The blue-haired guy feels the approach of the pursuer who followed him. Meanwhile, the mysterious pursuer in a cloak is already at the walls of the estate. The young man realizes that the Water King has fled here and decides to put an end to it. The guy suddenly feels half of his power nearby, not understanding what it means. The Queen of Darkness orders that the stolen power be returned first. But the young man does not want to miss the chance. An ominous voice reminds the boy of the contract and his subordinate position, forcing him to obey.